Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode of Tatami Talk. My name is Juan. This is my partner Anthony. This is a Judo podcast for Judo players by two Judo players. So, Anthony, how you doing?
I'm tired because we just did a long interview with our special guest.
So this episode we did a very long, almost I want to say close to 2-hour interview with Sensei Jonah from 510 Judo. He's a fan of the show. We talked to him before. He sends us feedback and brings up stuff for us to talk about. So he's been doing some really cool stuff in the Bay Area. So that's what this episode's mostly about. And it's going to be a long one, guys. So please strap yourselves in. But before then, we had a viewer question that you wanted to get to, or at least a hit on a little bit.
Yeah, and one of the viewer questions they asked about cross-training Greco and freestyle wrestling, and whether it's like a good, whether you get benefits from cross-training those for judo. And we touched upon no-gi judo in the past, but I don't think we got like a specific discussion about cross-training that for judo. And we both have kind of opinions on it, and since I started doing no-gi more recently, my opinions kind of changed. And then, well, not really. I guess it didn't change, but it kind of like has gone more detailed. So because the interview has went on longer than we intended, we're going to talk about it next episode. Even though I said we would talk about this episode, so yep, sorry, but you'll have to wait till next episode.
Got you. Cliffhanger.
Also, I got sick again. So you asked me how I was. I got sick again, so I'm not feeling too well. I guess it's my body saying don't compete, basically, because we mentioned about how the nationals are coming to the LA, and my body's like, oh, it's time to get sick, so you can't train. So that's not gonna happen until next year. Next year we're gonna have the Golden State Open and USA Nationals happening the same weekend, which would be great for us because I'm crazy and I'll do both of them back to back. But then we also have the USJF Nationals happening in San Francisco in October, so we have that to go to. Yeah, the other thing I want to mention briefly is that one of the viewers left a comment basically saying in the past, when judo was still in the AAU, I think we talked about last episode how it was broken up, and there were how they should break it up and have like qualifications, qualifiers, and then they get money to set. Sorry, I'm getting stuffy. They get stipend or funding to go to the nationals, and they said that used to be the case once upon a time when Kani Basami was still legal. And
that tells you how old it is.
That tells you how old it is. So it's interesting that they used to do that and they don't do that anymore. So maybe we should ask someone who's been through that time why they stopped doing that. I'm sure we all kind of have our own guesses. Has to do with politics and money, probably to drop in membership numbers. But so that's interesting that they used to do that and they don't do that anymore.
All right. So you want to get to the interview now?
Yeah. So we're interviewing Jonah. It was great talking to him. So it's a long one, but we had a lot of questions, and I already had some I had to cut out because I knew it was going to be a long one. So I just asked the more important ones, and he gave me a really good insight into how he runs the club and started a judo program. And if you haven't listened to it before, he did this interview many years ago with quite a few years ago in Dave Roman's podcast, and I think his club has grown a lot since then. So I think it was about time we asked about some similar questions. So it's fine. But I think I did a bit better job than Dave asking questions.
Oh, just man. Saying. But shots fired, Dave. I know you listen to the podcast. Shots fired. So you can meet us at Hollywood Judo anytime, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah. So great interview. Listen to it. Whole thing. Right.
So with no further ado, let's get to the interview. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sensei Jonah. He's the head sensei of 510 Judo up in the Yei area. So you're one of our I don't say members, but you're one of our frequent listeners. You send us stuff, you enjoy our things, and we enjoy the feedback that you give us, something you got us to talk about. So we decided to bring you on the show because you own your own club, you're the head instructor, and you've run your first big tournament. So Just to let people know who you are, can you just tell a little about yourself and how you got into martial arts and how you got into judo?
Sure. Well, I got into martial arts through, like a lot of people, through the movie The Karate Kid when it came out way back when. And, you know, I honestly don't remember this, but my mom says that, you know, we went to see it and my brother and I were like, we have to do this, you know. So, and we went, you know, the place that was like literally around the corner from where we lived was, it was a place that taught kung fu and also judo. And it was pretty unique because it was they were separate classes. So it was kung fu on like Tuesday, Thursday, and judo on Monday, Wednesday. But you had to do both to get promoted. So you're
interesting.
So yeah, so I grew up doing that and stayed there at that school actually pretty much through high school. You know, Dr. Alex Fang, still my sensei today, although he's, you know, retired from judo pretty much. Yeah, let's see. Trying to think. I wrestled in high school. I did like a little bit of taekwondo here and there. I worked out at, I lived in various places, so I had a chance to work out at Oishi Judo in New York, which is pretty cool, and also Sawtell Judo in Los Angeles, which is a great club. Although I was never really like super regular at either of those places, so they probably won't remember me. But then I came back to the Bay Area in like 2012, and I took up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and did a little bit of kickboxing as well. And I got my purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu. And then I had kids, so I pretty much stopped training Jiu-Jitsu, unfortunately. But once they get like into daycare, you know, maybe like another year or so, I'll be back training Jiu-Jitsu, hopefully, with Omar Kazdi and all those guys at Catch MMA. And so then when we went to Bay Area, I started, I opened my dojo, which back then we called Oakland Judo because it was in Oakland. And I actually moved in, started having the classes with my sensei. My sensei, who was, when I was growing up, was around the corner. He still had his old mats, so we just brought them out of storage and like we laid them out. He teaches Tai Chi now, Tai Chi and Qigong. So we would, one of these things where you like lay out the mats every time and then you pick them back up every time. You know, a lot of clubs are like that. And we started in 2012 with just Tuesday, Thursday, like 8 to 10 p.m., like after the Tai Chi, you know. And then, and then since then we've grown and we moved to a couple different places in Oakland. 2019, we moved to San Leandro. So we had to rename our club to 510 Judo, which is the area code. And that pretty much takes us up to today, I guess.
It's funny because it's such a Bay Area thing for me because like me, I represent the 408. So it's like 510 judo. It's like, oh, I know 510 judo. I know 510. I know where you at. So it's like, where are you from? 408. What are you talking about?
Right. The 707, E40. Yeah.
E40 always. Yeah. So one thing you mentioned right there is that you trained judo and kung fu growing up. What style of kung fu did you study?
You know, I guess it was called, it was called Bujen Pai Kung Fu, which is like, I guess if you're into Kung Fu and you were going to categorize it, you would call it something similar to like Northern Shaolin Kung Fu, or it's like a lot of
that's exactly what it is. Yep.
Low stances and like, you know, jumping up in the air and doing high kicks and stuff and like, you know, punching like that and stuff. But we didn't do, but the funny thing was we didn't do any forms. We did like our, like, you know, line drills and stuff. And we did a lot of sparring, which I found out later, I didn't know this, but I found out later was unusual for Kung Fu schools.
That is very uncommon. It's very unusual. Yeah. Yeah,
no, it was pretty cool. And our teacher was not like a jealous teacher. He had us, you know, train with a lot of different people. And when I was growing up, we went to, you know, there weren't that many Kung Fu tournaments around, but there was karate tournaments. So we went to karate tournaments. We did point sparring. We did Taekwondo tournaments. We even did some, which again, I realize now was so cool, was the bare knuckle karate tournaments where you're not allowed to punch the head, but pretty much anything else. Like you can kick in the head and all that stuff. And of course judo tournaments as well. And when Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when UFC came out, he like showed us like UFC 1. He brought it to the school. And he was like, look, see, it's like just like what we do. So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you talk about when you first moved back to the Bay from all your travels and stuff. How was it? Because you're pretty young still, open up your own club. Because I know as a younger people, like if I open up a club in like my 20s or 30s, you get a lot of people being like, oh, he's too young to open up a dojo and stuff. Like most people go to a dojo and expect someone in their 50s or 60s teaching. You get that little hesitation, be like, I don't know if he's seasoned enough to teach. How was it for you when you first opened your club?
Well, I am 45 now, so I don't know. I mean, people tell me I look young, but I'm not. No longer a spring chicken.
No, that's still no. To me, that's still young to open up your own dojo, man. I give it to you for doing it, man. Seriously. I'm 40 water also, mind, you know? But I'll be nervous still opening my own club. I get looks now when people come to the dojo like, you're one of the head instructors? Yes, I'm one of the head instructors.
Yeah, no, that was on my mind for sure. You know, that was definitely on my mind. You know, a lot of self-doubt and like, you know, am I good enough? You know, like, you know, I'm not famous, you know, I'm not like, you know, I never won a national championship when I had opened my dojo and never won a world championship, wasn't on Team USA, all this stuff. But now that's like, I don't know, I guess I had reached a point in my life at that point in 2012 where I was like, I just don't care anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do because I've been, you know, trying to live my life for other people for many years. And it hasn't worked out. So let me just really do what I've always wanted to do since I was 12 years old, which was to have my own martial arts school. And let me try and make that a reality. So I went for it, and thankfully, with a lot of help, it worked out. So
that's great.
Continues to work out, you know, knock on wood. But
so
yeah,
Anthony, do you want to?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I've been trying to get you on for a long time. I've been talking about it. But I think Dave Roman interviewed you way back, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to get rid of Dave's podcast before I get him on again. So you mentioned things are working out. Was running a dojo exactly what you envisioned it was going to be, or I'm sure it's harder than you initially thought it was, but was it exactly everything you imagined it to be, or is it very fulfilling in a different way, or is it like not what you expected?
Gosh, hard to say. I mean, I honestly don't remember what I expected. Yeah, I think I started teaching in 2012, and that was you know, just part-time. And although actually I had been teaching, I taught Kung Fu briefly in New York when I lived there. I had literally just like had a class with 3 or 4 students, and we would just work out, and it was fun. So I had some experience teaching, but yeah, I had class part-time, and it wasn't until roughly 2016, maybe 2017 that I was able to, go full-time and do it full-time. I mean, short answer, no, it's not what I expected. Long answer, like, yes, with a lot of conditions, I guess.
So if you don't mind me asking, what were you doing before you were doing this full time?
Oh man, I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see. Directly before that, I was actually a licensed acupuncturist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I went through 4 years of schooling and got like this master's degree, took out like massive student loans. And I got through it, and I ran an herb company for a while where I wasn't practicing acupuncture, but I was selling Chinese herbs to other acupuncturists. Mm-hmm. And then that was a company that I co-owned with my girlfriend at the time. We broke up, obviously, so then we had to sell the company and split it up. And then I was like, oh, I'll just be an acupuncturist now. So I got myself set up with an office and everything, and then I was like, I don't enjoy this at all. This is not what I want to do with my life. Like, it's great. Acupuncture is great. It works. And it's a great way for people to feel better and heal themselves from stuff. But it's not what I want to do, and I wasn't making any money, obviously. If I don't know about obviously, but maybe if I had been making money, I would be like, oh, I'll just do this. But
How long ago was that? Because I feel like acupuncture and cupping has been seeing a surge in popularity in recent years with athletes.
Yeah, let's see. I graduated from acupuncture school in 2009. And then I moved back then I was doing the herb company for a couple of years. And then when I moved back to the Bay Area, that's when I started doing acupuncture. And then I did that for a couple of years, never really made any money at it. Closed down my office. I was a bouncer for a while at a bar in San Francisco. And then when I quit my last bouncer shift, that's when I was really a full-time judo teacher.
Where was your acupuncture place at? Was it on the Oakland side or the San Francisco side?
Yeah, it was in the East Bay. It was in a little town called El Cerrito, which is just borders. It's right next to Albany, which Albany is right next to Berkeley. So if you know the Bay Area, that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. I would say maybe if you want to cross the bridge to Chinatown, maybe get you more people. Maybe. But, Chinese people don't like to pay. So
that's very true.
I'm looking for the bargain,
One of my best friend's mom, whenever he gets hurt, injured. When he broke his clavicle during judo, his mom tried to send him to an acupuncturist herbalist in Oakland to go get it fixed instead of having surgery. And she took him there. They went there, and the guy was like, I could fix it, but it's going to take like a month for me to fix this. And he has to stay here and live with me. It's like, he should go have surgery instead. So, yeah.
I still see a guy in Oakland, Chinatown he does not acupuncture, but Tui Na.
I think it's called bone setter, right? I saw the kanji for it. It was Tita. So it's bone setter. Yeah.
Yeah. His name is Simon Tang. He's from Hong Kong originally, and man, he really knows his stuff. He was trained by his dad. His dad still works like a couple doors down from him, has a different office. And man, whenever I get hurt, I go see Simon. Like most recently, my shoulder, my neck, my back, whatever. He saved me many, many times when I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to quit judo."
Yeah, I try not to give medical advice. Especially surrounding Eastern medicine. But man, I grew up seeing those kind of Eastern doctors because I grew up abroad, and traditional martial artists all were basically acupuncturists or doctors or do the Tita thing. And I've broken joints and broken bones, and they are much better than what Western doctors would do, which is usually put you in a cast and then let you heal that way, and you lose the range of motion and everything.
Right, so, your muscle shrinks and everything.
Yeah, so I highly recommend someone try it out with obviously someone that's certified and everything. But it's if you don't have any fractures, it's great. Basically, just like what Juan said. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Well, there's always I'm gonna say there's always that weird, funny thing where people think that because you're a black belt, you have medical experience or something. There's always that sensei, I heard this. What to do? Is like, well, I guess do this because this happened to me. I do this.
Yeah, I try not to do that either. I just give them Simon's card. I'm like, you should go see your doctor, and then after you see your doctor, if your doctor is just giving you ibuprofen, then go see Simon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a cousin who was playing basketball and he landed weird on his ankle, and his ankle just swelled up into the size of a volleyball. Yeah. And it went to the emergency room. They put him in a cast, gave him crutches. I was living in New York City at the time, and I had to carry him up the stairs in Chinatown to the
subway.
It's in some. You would think that's where prostitution happens, kind of place. So in Chinatown, up this side alley, there's like a stair that goes up to this apartment. So we went up there, and then the guy was like, "Oh yeah, they shouldn't have put you in a cast. It's a joint thing. It's not broken." So they massaged him for like an hour, and he was like screaming in pain because it hurts. But then, no, it was like
soft cast.
Would you call that a soft cast? It's like
those brace casts thing.
Those brace casts kind of things. So then they wrapped him in some herbal stuff and used saran wrap. And then by the end of after 2 hours, he was able to walk down himself. Its swelling died down. He was able to walk down himself, and he was back to playing basketball in like a month. So yeah. So it was very, very interesting. But most Westerners, I say like white people that I've recommended to go to the same person, they chicken out after they get there. So I tell them how amazing it is. So same type of injury, and then they're like, wait, they're gonna touch it? They're gonna rub it? Like I'm like, yeah, that's how they get the blood flowing, and then they chicken out last minute. So that's kind of been my experience of recommending it.
It depends. You gotta, depends on the type of injury, but sometimes, not every time, but sometimes there is a fair bit of pain involved in getting the muscles to relax and everything. Exactly. Not always, but.
So once again, consult. We're not recommending anything. Consult a medical professional. That's just our experience. So when you were opening your club, you were saying you weren't making any money from acupuncture, doing acupuncture. So how did you come up with the funding, the capital for all that?
Oh, I didn't. Well, in the beginning, I didn't need any capital because I was renting space from my sensei, and he had the space, he had the mats. I didn't have to buy mats. I had marketing budget of $0. And although maybe I printed some flyers and handed them out, and he just asked me to pay something like $5 an hour, really low.
Oh my! So you had a lot of help, yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. No, so it was just like, if I get like 3 or 4 guys, we get together, we can pay the rent, and then just slowly build from there. I did get some help from my parents at one point to buy some mats when I moved to another location, and then also good old fashioned credit cards. Although I don't recommend it, but I did use credit cards, we had. It was just it just was really slow in the beginning. It was really slow. And one thing that happened was we had in the beginning I was like, oh well, black belts shouldn't pay. That was my idea. It was like
we used to do that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course you end up with like 4 or 5 black belts.
Yeah.
Like nobody's paying. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to come out of the pocket with to pay the rent. And I was like, guys, this is not working. Like maybe black belts can pay 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like the way I do it now is everybody pays. Black belts got like a 5% courtesy discount because like, hey, you're a black belt. Thank you, for working out with us. But it's just a 5% discount unless you are actually a regular teacher. If you're an instructor, then of course, you don't pay me, I pay you, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, in the beginning we had like 0 capital. Then from there, I was able to move really just down the block, same neighborhood, in with one of my the guy who's on the same jiu-jitsu team as I am, Carlson Gracie, and we were in. He had like a t-shirt shop that had like he had a t-shirt shop that had like a space in the back where he would do jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. And so we moved in there, and we brought our judo mats over there, and we worked out there for a while. So again, very low rent, just subleasing. And then I moved down. One more move, we moved to a place called Oakland Strength Factory, also in the same neighborhood, which was like a big, huge warehouse that used to be an ice cream factory, and it was
That's awesome. Did they leave an ice cream there? Was there anything in the fridge? Was it still good?
No, that place was a sweat box, man. There was no air conditioning. It was so, when in the summertime, it was so hot. You would walk in, it was like a furnace, like oh my God, so hot. Mm. Like huge high ceilings, but like no air conditioning, just like one giant fan like at the door,
Yeah.
And then like that was cool because it was a bigger mat space, and I knew the guys that owned it. And, but the thing about it was, it was a workout gym. So they had like, all these like, kettlebells and barbells right up to the edge of the mat, and then like I have kids running around, and I'm like, oh God, watch out,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want them to fall and smash their head into a barbell or something. So that was a great space, as long as it lasted. I think we were there just for a year, and then, but my goal was always to stop subleasing and find my own spot. And I managed to find an amazing spot in San Leandro, which is owned by these guys who are like these two twin brothers. They're like both in their 90s. They're like from the neighborhood. They grew up in the neighborhood. Their dad owned the building and passed it down to them. I'm sure the mortgage is probably paid off on the building, so like the rent is like decent, you know. Mm-hmm. And they're just super nice, really great landlords. And it's in a nice little commercial strip. So just very lucky to land there. And by that point, we had the customer base to pay the rent and to pay myself a little bit. And then COVID hit, of course, but
yeah, we can talk about that if we have time.
Yeah.
But at least you're open and you're living the dream. All right. It's every black belt's dream to own their own club, you know?
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I'm really thankful for it. I do have meaning in my work life. I have a lot of meaning, which I get a lot of people don't have, you know, like they have a job that they kind of like, maybe they don't, or they just fell into it, or it's like a tech job or a marketing job. And they're like, oh yeah,
I feel called out. Sorry.
No, you stick to your job because of flexible hours. All right. Now you shut your mouth.
Yeah. That's what he's saying. There's no meaning.
No, it's like, but on the other hand, I was living in my, yes, that's another thing. The way I was able to afford starting my club, I forgot to mention, was I wasn't paying any rent at the time because I was living in my uncle's backyard. He had well, I guess now it's called an ADU, but he had basically like converted his garage into a living space. And he didn't really need me to pay rent. He was just like, you can stay back here. I was like, cool, perfect. So there I am at like, 34 years old, like, no career, no family, no savings, just living in my uncle's backyard. But I had a dream,
So, how did you decide to open at, well, I guess you already kind of talked about that, but how did you pick that location right now? Was it just because it was of the price? Like, I'm sure the location thing is very big, and there's a lot of judo clubs up there, especially some pretty well-known ones, right? So, did you put that into the account when you were picking a location? Like, you don't want to be too close to some of those places, and you're looking for a place where there were fewer clubs around, less competition?
Well, here's the thing. There are a lot of judo clubs in the Bay Area, but compared to the number of overall martial arts clubs, it's still very low, right? So, and if you compare it to the number of karate schools, taekwondo schools, Brazilian jiu-jitsu schools, it's still low. So 510 Judo is pretty much used to be, not now, but used to be on the inner Bay Area. Is pretty much the only place in between like El Cerrito and San Jose. So like, which if you know the Bay Area, it's kind of a long stretch. There's nothing in Fremont. There's nothing in Hayward. There's nothing in Union City. We're the only place in Oakland, and Oakland's pretty big. There was nothing in Berkeley except, there's UC Berkeley and Berkeley Genco, which is the Mongolian club, which is very tough. And then, Albany, Berkeley, there's a bunch of clubs. And then San Jose, there's a whole bunch of clubs. And then Pleasanton, Castro Valley, there's some clubs. But as far as staying away from other judo clubs, it wasn't really a big.
Well,
we lost him for a
second. Yeah. See if he comes back. Maybe he ran his Wi-Fi disconnected from his phone or battery.
I managed to find a place that was not. I wanted to stay in Oakland. I wanted to stay in the same neighborhood.
So you froze on us for a second when you're explaining where all the dojos were.
Oh,
so no, it's not your fault. It's the damn service fault. I believe you're talking about. I think it was right. It was a little bit after the Mongolian dojos that one cut out.
Oh,
Anthony?
He was saying that wasn't a concern, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, like finding a spot that wasn't too close to other judo clubs is not a concern because we were the only place in the neighborhood, and we wanted to stay in pretty much in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Now, this might be a South Bay thing, but how many West Coast karates are near you?
Oh, I'm sure there's a ton. Like I don't. I'm sure there's a ton. Yeah. And then there's United Studios of Self Defense. I don't know if that's the one.
That's another thing. That's another. I'm glad you're here. You get all my Bay Area jokes. You get all my. You get all of them. Anthony's like, what are they talking about?
Hey, I'm trying to take notes and keep track of what questions I want to ask. So,
go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, no, you go ahead. I've been asking all the questions.
Well, my thing was that I know you're mostly a judo club. I know and I know judo's tough to have its own club by itself, just a standalone and stuff. Just like it's tough to have a standalone karate place now, a standalone taekwondo place. Everybody's always having to mix things together. It's like, we do taekwondo and we do this grappling. We do karate and kickboxing here now. Did you have to add other programs to make yourself successful, or are you just doing it all by yourself, just judo?
Just judo at various points. We've had, we used until very recently, we had 2 nights a week of like what we called no-gi judo, which ends up being like, more pretty much wrestling and jujitsu plus judo throws. And then now it's only 1 day a week. And at various other points, we've had like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and we had like a wrestling club for kids, like once or twice a week, where it was just like wrestling with like wrestling shoes, But
are those still happening?
The wrestling stuff, no, because I cut that because it always ended up being my smallest class. So just by the numbers, as a business, I was like, well, let me put something else.
And that's the one for kids, right?
Yeah.
Wrestling for kids. Okay.
Yeah. And also I found it was harder to kind of enforce, but to cultivate a culture of respect in wrestling, because, I wanted to do it. I didn't want to do like a weird hybrid of judo and wrestling. I would be like, okay, this is wrestling. We don't have to bow, we just shake hands, and we work hard. But, I had trouble like running the class without that kind of discipline. So plus it was just a small class. So also, Juan, I would like to disagree with you on the idea that people have to mix stuff. In my experience, if you are, I've been to, just one. I've been to one martial arts business conference. I've read a lot of martial arts business books. I'm a member of a whole bunch of like martial arts business Facebook groups, because I'm just trying to pick up tips anywhere I can. I think, as far as I can tell, I think there are lots of very successful places that are only doing one thing. Like either they're doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu or they're doing taekwondo or, whatever it is. And in my case, especially, I think that because there's lots of judo schools around, but in the Bay Area, but a lot of them are still community based, and they do like 2 to 3 times a week, and each practice is like 3 hours long, which is cool. That's an awesome way to practice, but we have classes like 6 days a week, and each class is only about maximum 90 minutes. We have some 1 hour classes. We have we have morning classes. We have noon classes, all this stuff. So for someone who's looking to learn judo, it's a great place to go, because you can just go like any time of the week, any time of the day. And I feel like that is, for me, that's the key. Like right now, I don't offer Brazilian jiu-jitsu as a standalone thing, because I'm just a purple belt. And in the Bay Area, there's like a ton of really good black belts, including my coach. So like, why would you learn from a purple belt when you could just learn from all these other black belts around? So I think focusing on judo has really been a key to my success rather than like a difficulty.
Yeah, I was going to say,
that is great.
Yeah, that is true. Because I personally, when I was looking for a judo place, I'm like, I don't want to find a place that has a judo class like twice a week, and then the rest of the time it's mostly a MMA place, and then they have like kind of like UFC gym, it kind of gives a kind of like, it's a lower quality product kind of thing, because it's offering all these different things. It's like going to an all you can eat buffet, like compared to going to a proper sushi restaurant. Right. Yeah, and I know, especially in a lot of high cost of living areas, a lot of places will lease out time slots to like a cardio kickboxing program or like a yoga class or something like that to supplement the rent, basically. And I guess if you have to do that to survive, yeah. But would you agree with me that if you had to do that, then I would probably pick something like yoga or something where it's where it's distancing away from the martial arts thing, so it doesn't dilute the product that you're offering?
Let's see. If I wanted to do that, what I would do is I would hire a yoga teacher and have it as part of the membership. I wouldn't rent space to someone else, just because I'm like a little bit of a control freak when it comes to my space, you know, and like when you have other people coming in and like, oh, this is my class and my school, we're just subleasing here, even though I was a subleaser myself for many years. You know, it's kind of like, okay, what's going on here? Like, you know, who's, you know, I don't know. It's just, it
that makes sense.
Yeah. It just doesn't feel right to me. I would bring it in house and I would offer it, you know, as part of the thing. But yeah, I mean, you know, maybe yoga or something like that. Yeah. That might be a good thing to do.
So, when you mentioned it was really dead at first, right? So this, I guess, is a 2-part question. So how were people walking in at a time? Like, were they like coming in through Googling you through the flyers, or did you just say like, oh, we saw you because you're part of this other program? We were already training Tai Chi and we saw you at a judo program, so I tried it out. Or that's the first part. It's like, how did people find out about your club when it was kind of dead? And second part is, I think this was actually a question posted on Reddit recently. It's like, what do you do when it's just like you and one other person in class?
Yeah. So let's see, a variety of ways. We had, I started out just with like, I printed some flyers and I literally like went around the neighborhood and I like went to like the sandwich shop and like over here. And I was like, hey, can I leave some flyers here? You know, like, can I leave some flyers here? Which is like, I don't really have that kind of personality. So to do that was like really hard, you know, but I forced myself to do it. And a lot of, you know, people were pretty cool about it. They were like, yeah, sure, whatever, it's fine. Or they were like, oh no, you can't do that here. I was like, okay. You know, like the worst they can say is no, you know? So, but I went around and I did that. And then, of course, my sensei, he was always recommending people to me. So he sent a bunch of students my way. And then I don't know if any of them stayed, but a couple of them stayed like, you know, 6 months to a year. And then, we had one family when we were starting our kids program, because we had adult program first. Then we're like, okay, let's add a kids program. Let's add some kids classes, you know, 1 or 2 days a week.
That's the opposite of what people usually do.
Right. Well, when I started out, I was just like, I need a place to do judo. So like, I need to start a club for me, because I don't want to go over here and over there to do judo. You know? So let me just start a judo club and like bring people in. Fortunately, there was a guy named Sensei Alan, who's I went to high school with, and he got his black belt from a different club that's now defunct around here. So he jumped in. So we've been working out together for years. But yeah, so when we started our kids program, it was actually one of the flyers that I left in a local Subway sandwich. And it was like this Hapa kid, his dad was Japanese, mom was a local school teacher in the elementary school right around the corner, the Okajima family. And they brought their kid in, and it was like literally just me and him for like a couple months. and I was like, oh, I'll teach you all this stuff. You know, I'm like this much taller than him. And then finally, his mom, Mrs. Okajima, she dragged in like 5 different kids from her class. She was like, you should do judo. You should do judo. You should do judo. And like basically like built my kids program. You know, she was a super spreader. And so that was amazing. School always be in debt to the Okajima family for that. But yeah, that basically kickstarted our kids program. And then of course, so that, and then I have to mention, hopefully I'll mention it more than once, this one book, which is an amazing book. Anybody who's starting a martial arts school should get it and should read it and should subscribe to the newsletter. It's called Small Dojo, Big Profits, and I forgot the name of the author now. I can't believe I forgot.
I took a note down, so I'll find it afterwards and put it in the notes. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Small Dojo, Big Profits is like the blueprint. He comes from the world of karate, but you know, it's basically his whole thing is like, you know, you don't have to have a mega school to earn a good living. You know, you can have a house and a car and go on vacation if by running a small martial arts school. And of course, to him, like in terms of karate, like a small martial arts school is under 200 people, right? So for judo, people are like, oh, I have like 70 students, like so. But no, he's saying, he's comparing it to like, I guess a lot of karate schools, they really are like belt mills, and they're like, let's get up to like 800 students, 1,000 students, like 5 different locations, and like, and you're just like an administrator, and you're like, and you're like running these systems, and you're hiring these people, but you're not really like teaching them. He's like, if you want to not sell out and you love teaching and you love mostly what you like to do is teach martial arts, this is the blueprint. And I was like, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So, and most of his stuff is pretty good even today, even though it was written back in like, in the early 2010s, I think. So
you said that's Kickstarter your kids program, but you started with the adults first. So how were the adults finding it? How did you grow the adults program?
Really just word of mouth. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Google Maps. And I had a lot more time than money. So I learned how to make a website, and I made my own website. And so I had a really well fleshed out Google Maps profile, pictures and everything, and whatever they want you to do, I did it. And then I also had a pretty good website. What I thought was a pretty good website. Then I ran into a guy, I forgot his name, really cool dude, new to judo at like mid-30s. And he was like, your website, it was like needs an overhaul. I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's so great. Like it has everything about judo. It has the history of judo. It has like all these Japanese terms. Like it has everything you would want, He's like, no, you need to think of your website as a marketing tool, right? Not a website for judo nerds. And I was like, oh, that's genius. Website is actually, it's just the marketing. It's part of your marketing funnel to get people in the door. And it's not, so my old website is probably like archived somewhere, but it was just like a wall of text, like I wrote these long articles about like.
Stop laughing, Anthony. Stop laughing.
You know why I'm laughing? Anthony. You know why I'm laughing? Because that's our website that you're describing. And I'm actually in the middle of overhauling it because it's exactly as you said. It has a bunch of judo history, judo terms.
That's great.
What is the Nagi no Kata? The history of the.
Yes, but we have a great presence on social media, though. Okay,
you really do. Congratulations to recent members who got promoted to blue belt and green belt and all that stuff. I saw those pictures.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, no, social media has also been a game changer. So that's been really helpful as well.
Yeah, so I think for us too, Google Maps was a majority of how people found us, and Yelp not so much. Surprisingly, not so much Yelp.
Garbage, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that Yelp would be a much bigger hit because I personally, when I go places, I look at Yelp not for the negative reviews, but for the positive, because I know like people get upset and that motivates them to write negative reviews, but I want to see what people have to say positively about those places personally. So you back to that question. What do you do when it's just you and another, let's just say adult? And also you mentioned a kid and you're like, like huge compared to the kid. So in both circumstances, what do you do when you have a small class, basically?
Well, when it's a small class, gosh, it really depends. You mean back then or now? Because it's different.
Let's just stick to back then for time.
Okay. Back then, if I can remember, gosh, it depends on the level of the person. So if it's me and one other person and they're a white belt, then I teach like a private white belt beginner session. We do Kemi, and I can do like, okay, whatever you want to work on. Really, one person is actually easier than 2 people. Because if you have one person, you just focus on them. If you have 2 people, now it's you and 2 other people, and those 2 other people might be very different skill levels and sizes.
Yeah.
In that case, that's a little more difficult, but you just kind of find the middle. You're like, okay, what can we all work on together? It's not going to be like, if it's a class of like, 8 brown belts and, 5 black belts and 1 green belt, it's like the green belt's just going to have to keep up, But if it's like 1 white belt and 1 brown belt, and then me, the instructor, then it's like, okay, well, we'll just find the medium here. We'll work slowly. We'll get a good workout. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's definitely less energy when
Mm-hmm.
it's a smaller class. So in terms of keeping up morale, maybe it's like if it's like class after class after class and it's always small, then then the energy goes down and the morale goes down. It's like, well, what are we doing here? You know?
Yeah, we all know those times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of brings me to a question I wanted to ask really quick is that you did a lot of moving when you first opened up, and then when you finally settled on your film location. Do you have a lot of retention when people when you go from place to place to place, or do you have to rebuild every time you moved?
The first 2 times we moved, it was really right in the same neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a big issue. It was right in the same neighborhood. It was just like, okay, here's a better opportunity 1 block down, and then here's another opportunity 5 blocks over this way. So all the kids stayed. It was, and each place was like an upgrade in some way. Mm-hmm. So for us, in that respect, it wasn't a big deal. Then when we moved down, it was basically 10 minutes down the freeway. Mm-hmm. So to San Leandro, we did lose some, but most of them stayed at first, and they stayed long enough because there was enough good feeling and enough about the program, that even the kids that had been living right around the corner from the dojo, they were like, oh, I imagine in my head, I'm imagining they were like, oh, we're still going to go to judo, right? I love judo. I don't know if that really happened, but the parents did bring them over to that other neighborhood for a little while. Even now today, there are some kids still from that old neighborhood that are now getting big, teenagers getting their sankyus and nikyus and stuff. But there has been, since that time, there has been a lot of turnover. Once COVID hit, that was a big thing, because then I guess a lot of people that had been coming from that old neighborhood were like, oh, well, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then Dojo's just kind of closed indefinitely. And then a lot of those people didn't come back after COVID, but by that point we were pretty well established in the new neighborhood. So.
Yep. So I guess I got to ask this. Do you agree with the people out there, mainly, I guess Travis Stevens, saying that the problem with judo in America is that instructors don't charge enough? They don't charge. Do you think that's a huge problem in itself, or whether you think it's okay that some people decide to charge and some people decide to give it away for free, basically?
I don't think that it's a problem. I don't think it's the problem. But I definitely see what he's saying in terms of well, I'll give you an example. I have what I consider to be a mentor. His name is Master Juan. The Bay Area is so rich in judo resources. He was on the Korean Olympic team back in the year 2000. And he actually won 3 matches at the Olympics, and he got some sort of terrible ankle injury and couldn't continue. But and now he teaches in Oakland, in a nice part of Oakland, but he teaches Taekwondo. That's how he makes his living, because he's also a Taekwondo black belt. But he loves judo, and he also now teaches judo, alongside Taekwondo, just a couple days a week. But Master Han's been so nice to me. He's been super nice to me. He just gives. And one of the things he's been giving has been advice. And when I moved into the place in San Leandro, he would just drop by unannounced, and he'd just be like, oh, she'd look around, and he'd be like, let's have lunch sometime. We would have lunch. He'd be like, Jonah, you have to raise your prices. You have to raise your prices. You have to raise your prices. And I was like, yeah, I want to make sure that people can afford it, but then I want to, I don't want to raise it too much, I want to raise it gradually. And but I think, part of it is important to charge what you're worth. And if you're trying to make a living at it, there is kind of a standard that you have to charge. If you're not trying to make a living at it, and it's just something you're doing for fun, and you have another job, you charge whatever you want. I don't care. But I think in that situation, you're not going to be teaching 6 days a week, right? If you have another job, you're not going to be teaching in the morning. You're not going to be teaching at noon. You're going to have, maybe 2-3 days a week, maybe 4 days a week, all in the evening, after work. And there's not going to be that customer service incentive where you're going to go the extra mile and try and provide, an excellent experience for everyone all the time, so I think maybe I didn't really listen to what Travis Stevens, I haven't heard that exact thing you're talking about from Travis Stevens, but I imagine that what he's talking about is that he wants there to be more professional judo schools. And if you're,
I think the major point he's saying was people don't value judo and they see it as like the students that come by aren't as serious about it because they're not paying for the money for it.
I see. Yeah, like it just has like an overall reputation for being the cheap martial art.
Yeah,
I see. Yes. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. But you can't really force people to charge more. So I'm like, if you want to charge less, I don't care. I'm going to charge what I'm going to charge, and I'm going to provide the best judo school I possibly can. With like the best mats and the best facility and the best instruction and the best atmosphere. And, if someone wants to go to the place that's cheaper, that's great. Of course, I think judo should be cheap too. It should be cheap and expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I look at some of these BJJ places and I'm like, man, we had a judo club that looks like that. I'd be super happy. And all those places have super nice mats and floors. I'm like, you guys don't even do takedowns. Like, why do you need those floors? So I just really wish we had a place like that. And I would pay like a Equinox membership price for that. Like if you had like a gym area, clean showers, clean locker rooms, a sauna maybe for weight cutting, all that kind of stuff. I would definitely pay that amount. And it's just weird how there's a market for that for BJJ, but just not for judo.
Yeah. The market is there for judo. It's there for judo. It's there for the taking. Someone just has to reach out and grab it. It's literally right there. Did you know? I just had a guy visit from Austin, Texas. He was the head instructor of Kokoro Judo Club.
Yeah. I started there.
The only judo club in Austin. It's literally the only judo club in Austin. Is a huge city. And there's a UT Austin. There's a university club.
They're kind of linked. They used to be kind of linked. Because one of I started judo there.
What? Oh,
yeah. Was it Glenn that visited you? Or Dario?
Say it again.
You said it had one of the instructors, right? So it's either Dario, Glenn, Chris, Steve.
Oh, I'd have to look it up. I'm sorry. He was a really nice guy. He had a beard. I don't know.
It's Dario, probably. Yeah.
Dario, I don't know. Yeah, I could look it up. But yeah, he was a super nice guy. And I'm just like, man, in my opinion, any city, any hamlet, any township, any village that can support a full-time jiu-jitsu school.
Oh, we lost him again. So a full-time jiu-jitsu school. Remember that before he comes back. So Anthony, how you doing?
You froze again. So you said, in your opinion, any city that can support multiple full-time jiu-jitsu schools, which, by the way, recently, since I moved away, like all the BJJ scene there has just exploded because of Danaher and the B team and everything.
Yeah. Can also support a full-time judo school. Like mine. I think. Well, there is from the interviews that we've done with many people and stuff, like Travis Stevens talks about it, Ajax talked about it, and who was else do we had? We interviewed somebody else that talked about it as well.
Carrie? Carrie?
Yeah, Carrie also. She brought up that judo, we have this humbleness about us. Like, we're a humble martial art that we don't want to charge more than we have to. We got to just, as long as we survive off what we make, we're good. Like, we got to get rid of that and get that, it's terrible to say, but that BJJ mentality is like, you want to know what? We're worth $200 a month. Yeah, we're worth one something a month. Why are we always under 100 or like 50s? Like, I know with us, when we raised our prices from 40 to 50, like people were like having heart attacks. They're like, oh my God, you're charging $50 a month now for your community center judo that you can train at 3 times a week, that has a nice changing room, showers, a weight room, and all these exercise equipment. How dare you charge $50?
Yeah, I mean, we had parents coming in to tell us, like, we're not like we're technically a community center dojo, right? But we're not like other community center. We have our own dedicated space. We don't have to put the mats away. Theoretically, we can hold classes whenever we want. Yeah. We have showers. We have large amounts of parking. And we have bathrooms. And the parents were like, "Why are you charging so little?" And we've been raising prices the last couple of years, and we're still
You
Yeah,
get 50-50.
Yeah.
Some are so surprised that we're so cheap, and some are like every time we read the price, they're like, "Oh my god, I don't know if I can still afford this place." Like, don't you put your kid in BJJ also? Isn't your kid doing Taekwondo also?
Yeah, it's really funny. The people that refuse to pay or avoid paying are always the ones that cross train BJJ. Like, I don't understand why. Like that. Because I handle the payments, so I know who has been paying and not. And I just like, this guy's like training BJJ.
Name him and shame him. Right on the podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, what do you? I always found it really interesting that you were able to grow your. So let's start with this. How many students do you have right now? And if you don't mind me asking, how much are you charging now?
Let's see. I have, roughly speaking, about 140 active memberships, but I would say about 10 of those, maybe not, maybe five to 10 of those are not really memberships, because like I have a membership, so I can be on a certain list within the database. Like, so there's a couple of those that are not paid, but I would say about 130 paying members. And then we charge, it's all on our website, so it's not a secret. We charge between $179 and $199 a month, depending on which plan you choose.
That's very reasonable for the up there where you guys are, I think.
I think it is. I went to a martial arts business conference, which was mostly Taekwondo guys. Again, invited by Master Han, because he was like, "Oh, you should come. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm. And I learned so much, Taekwondo, there's a lot of stuff that's very applicable.
Where is it hosted, by the way?
Oh, Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. Is it an invite only thing, or is it something that any of viewers?
No, yeah. Anybody, I think anybody can go.
I saw the road trip.
Yeah.
What is the conference called?
It's called the ASA. Which, if you know Korean, it's the American Sabumnim Association.
Okay, I won't have trouble with that.
Okay,
yeah,
it's Korean for sensei, Sabumnim.
Yeah, okay. That's why they call it the ASA now. So it's been mostly Taekwondo, but there's a guy, I forgot his name now, but there was a guy from the Midwest, I think Ohio, yeah, and he has like 5 schools in the Cleveland area, Taekwondo schools, and I don't know anything about Cleveland, but I know it's probably less expensive than the Bay Area. He's charging more in these suburbs of Cleveland than I'm charging right in the heart of the Bay Area. Still, even to this day, like so I was like, okay, well, it's definitely doable. And the thing is, like, you can always offer scholarships if you want.
That's what I was agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if you don't have money and you don't have a facility, then you can't offer a scholarship. You know what I mean? Like, so, there's also, one thing. Oh, there's a lady from Sacramento who has like a Taekwondo school, but it's also like a climbing gym. I didn't really understand it, but she has one location where she makes over $1 million a year from. And wow. very intense, Persian lady, Iranian American. And she was like, get this straight. There is no shortage of money or people in the world. Let me repeat that. There is no shortage of money or people in the world. So I was like, yes, this is so true. I'm getting all pumped up, like, but so it was a great experience. Interesting experience. A lot of those guys, they had a lot of stories to tell about like growing up like broke, like first generation immigrants, from Korea. And the dojo was like their Chinese restaurant, they were always there, mom and dad were just working like crazy hours. And now they're millionaires, and so like super proud of like where they came from and like super proud of what they've done. And they have no problem charging, the money that they charge for the service that they offer. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is cool. Like I could get on board with this, like not everything that they do in a Taekwondo school translates to Judo. Definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say.
For sure. Like there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't translate, but there's a lot of stuff that does. So.
A lot of stuff the Taekwondo karate school does is like what I don't like about the BJJ schools, which is charging for belt tests, having like 1 billion belt colors and stripes, and they charge like $20-$30 every time. Required uniforms, having to buy the back patches, the underwear, the rash guards, the
underwear.
Yeah, you'd be
Anthony,
surprised.
where are you? What training place do you go to? You have to buy their specific underwear. I've heard the rash guards and spats. I heard about the underwear.
That's what I was going to say next. I was surprised you're able to grow your school relatively fast without having to use any of those tactics, like because you don't do belt. As far as I know, you don't charge for belt tests, right?
I do, and I started doing it after that conference.
Doing that after the conference.
Wait. Hold on.
I totally back you because that is a Taekwondo thing, But that's like but there's a whole joke. I come from a very bad Tongsudo background where my old grandmaster, he'd be like, "Oh, I feel like going on a trip. Hey guys, it's a belt test in 2 weeks."
Yeah, no, okay, let me explain myself. So,
defend yourself now.
So, in order to do a belt test, you have to have a curriculum, okay? And having a curriculum levels up your school like in a huge way. It just makes the whole thing more professional. So that's another thing that a lot of judo guys and even jiu-jitsu guys do to this day. They'll just show up and they'll be like, "What do I feel like teaching? Faraigoshi," and it's just like whatever you feel like teaching, and it's like, I just feel like doing newaza today, so we'll just do a bunch of newaza, a bunch of random stuff. Mm-hmm. If you're going to test people, there has to be something that they know they're going to be tested on. So you have to design a curriculum. I had to design a curriculum, so I have the whole year laid out from January to December, exactly what I'm going to teach every single week in every single class. Before that 2-week period starts, I review videos. I okay, how am I going to teach this? Is this a technique that I'm actually good at, or is it one that I'm like just so at? So how much do I have to review? What new ways of teaching can I do? Because I always teach Koichigari a certain way. Can I teach it a different way this time? And then you have to design the different tracks because I have basically 4 tracks. I have kids, and then I have kids advanced, and then I have adult novice, and I have regular adult. So the kids, the regular kids and the adult novice, they follow the Gokyo, and they basically only do the first 8 throws of the Gokyo on repeat, right? So Ippon Seinagi, Osotogari, Ouchigari, Sasai, Kizagaruma, Ukigoshi, whatever the other ones are, right? So, and Dashibarai is in there, and they just do those on repeat, and it's by the time they and now it is evolving because I just started the curriculum, so I will have to change it at some point. And then in the kids advanced and the regular adult class, we do all the other stuff. We also do those stuff, but we also do everything else. And then there's newaza. So I really had to sit down. Basically, in order to do a belt test, I had to sit down and really think about what do I want people to actually learn, and how am I going to actually put it in their brains. And then I had to think about, okay, that's the short term for the belt test, but what about the long term? Like, how do I move a person from white belt to black belt? How do I move an 8-year-old kid to a 16, 17, 18-year-old shodan? How do I move a relatively athletic, 32-year-old who's never done judo? How do I move them to shodan in, a reasonable amount of time? What do they have to learn? And what is the order they should learn in? So it really made me put a ton of hours into the business. And I was like, you know what? I should get paid for this. I should get paid for all this work I'm doing, and the belt test is really just is the kind of the end product of that, and so it's not really being paid for the physical belt. It's not, you're not paying for like the time that you're there, the 2 hours or whatever the belt test is. It's all that work in designing the curriculum and making sure that the people are learning what they're supposed to learn, and then testing them on it. Like that whole process is what you're charging for. In addition to, the regular monthly fees, which is you just being there and teaching all the classes, and then everything else like answering emails and memberships and marketing and signing all that stuff up. So yeah, that's why I charge for that.
Yeah, I understand, because I plan out everything. Well, not to the year, but I tried planning the curriculum out for our beginners class to the year, and honestly, it just didn't work out because one time I had to go travel and then got sick and kind of screwed stuff up. So I have I have templates that I use, and I group throws into concepts and mechanics, and then I teach them as a group, and then I go from there depending on what shows up. Actually, what I do is I take notes on who has showed up on and who has gone through certain number of classes on certain throws. And then if everyone there has been through like hip throws for like 3 times, but only 1 time for Osotogari for leg techniques, then I would like do more cycles of the Ashiwaza. I feel like that was a little bit more flexible, but I get you, because it took me a long time to, and I'm still tweaking it.
Yeah. You got to constantly revisit it. Yeah. No, it's
so yeah. I'll agree to disagree with the belt test fee thing. So other than that, there's no required uniforms. I don't feel like you're very active in social media, and I don't feel like there's any of that BJJ cult like thing happening. Like,
I really try to stay away from that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people will try and treat me that way, and I'm like, just stop. Like, what are you doing? Like it was I actually learned a lot from my coach Omar Kazdi on how to run a class, because the way he runs class, it's very professional, but it's also friendly and collegial. Like, if you work hard, you'll be recognized. And, but when you're on the mat, it's serious, because you're there to train, people do make friends and end up, going outside of class and like, being friendly and cracking jokes. But like, basically when you're there on the mat, you're there to learn. And as long as everybody's working hard together, then it's all good, but anything that takes away from that atmosphere is not tolerated. So, but yeah, I never wanted to be like people to be like, oh, sensei, like,
yeah, or like
there's Shintaro did a really good podcast on this called Sensei Syndrome,
yeah,
where if I'm recalling it correctly, it's basically like, it's like, oh, sensei's got this great uchimata, and he can throw everybody in the dojo with it. It's like, okay, well, what if the sensei goes somewhere else that's not his own dojo, right? Maybe
lost it for a sec.
This is going very well.
It is. We have a lot to talk about. So I don't think I need to cut this part out. But
yeah, you should. This is us being weird right now.
You froze again. So Sensei has a really good uchimata if he goes somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, the point is the sensei has to keep training too,
Yeah.
And you don't want people to treat you like you're some sort of like amazing, God or something, because you're not. You're just a guy that's teaching. You happen to be, you offer a good teaching service, and that's what you're paid for and treated with respect for. But there's no need for it to be like a weird cult thing. So
yeah, that's one of the things I say in my beginner's class. I'm like, I'm not that good. I'm just really good at teaching. So like most of you, especially those who are my size, you might be able to throw me if you try hard enough, was what I said. So
yeah.
But you smaller ones,
I'm gonna crush you. Yeah. So do you have anything? Should we move on to
well,
I do have one more question. So
I wanted to ask before we start talking about how run your tournament stuff. I kind of want to ask you, how was it rebuilding your dojo after COVID? Because I know a lot of us had a hard time reopening, doing stuff like our dojo. About halfway through COVID, we started just training in the park. We're like, we want to keep judo alive, so we started doing stuff in the park. So, how was it for you reopening up your club, or what did you do with your club during the pandemic?
We did Zoom classes, which were, really just, it ended up being like 4 people. It was like me, this one guy who's like a brown belt, and then like these 2 other kids, and like we would, one teenager and then like one 8-year-old. And we were there like for every Zoom session, and we would just check in, and we would just do a ton of calisthenics. We would just do like, we'd have rubber bands. We'd be like, okay, we're going to do 50 of these, and then we're going to do like 50 of these. We'll do burpees and push-ups and stuff.
Yeah.
But we all got really fit by ourselves. But, it's not really judo, but it's something, and at least you can offer it to people and say, this is what you're paying for. And I was really lucky because 50% of people maintain their memberships. So our memberships did go down by gradually, slowly. They went down by about half at its lowest point. But it's amazing that 50% of people were paying for basically not using the dojo, like it's amazing. I'm very grateful for that. And, I took the PPP loan. I got like a $5,000 grant from the state of California. They were handing out money for various things. So I took advantage of those, and then we did like a t-shirt fundraiser. But when we reopened, it wasn't difficult at all because, I managed to still, my wife was working at the time. So she was bringing in an income. She is the school teacher. And so teaching through Zoom, which was like bananas also, but she still had her salary. And I was still able to pay myself a little bit. My landlord, who I mentioned before, gave us like 3 months of half rent just for nothing. Like I didn't ask for it. And he was just like, oh, times are tough. Just pay us half for like 3 months. That was amazing. And when we reopened, I think there was like 1 month where we had like 30 new students, which was like, and then it was like, okay, now we're back, like all the classes were packed. And I was like, how can I arrange these kids in different places? So reopening wasn't that difficult. It was just the mental and financial stress of not being able to run your business. It was super tough, and I'm sure you guys remember there was like the fires and the riots and everything.
Yeah.
And it was like, you couldn't even go outside. And it was just very depressing. Like everybody it was tough for everybody. It was tough for everybody. So, we did okay.
Yeah. So I have two more questions. One is when I'm assuming you raised your fees a few times already. How did you bring that up? And did you like grandfather anyone in? And like how were people's reactions to it? Did you lose any students? How many people did you lose over it?
So when I started back in 2012, I think it was charging like $50 a month, but it was always like 49. It was like psychology of pricing. But so it was 49, then it was 69, and then it was 79, and then it was 99. And then we broke the $100 barrier. And so just like over time, I've really just been raising it just about like $10-20 each time. And to bring us up to where we are now. And each time that I raise the price, I try to offer, I try to have a reason, right? Not just like, oh, I want to make more money, but like, I've been adding more classes to the schedule. And that's been a major one. We added a bunch of classes to the schedule. We have this and that. We have this new dojo and but yeah, basically whenever I raise the prices, I try to offer something in return where it's like, and I pointed out to them, like when I send the email, I take a while to craft the email and I'm like, the prices, these are the new prices. And it's, we had a lot of stuff going on and all this stuff. And honestly, I don't remember, maybe like 1 or 2 people ever were just like, oh, that's too much. We're not going to pay. I think that only happened like once or twice, honestly. Maybe there was like, maybe like after a couple months, people would be like, oh, I'm not going to come anymore for various reasons. But that always happens, So
yeah, regardless of price. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And people really should not be afraid to raise their prices. They really shouldn't. As long as it's going to make you work harder, When you raise your price, it makes you work harder because you're like, oh man, I hope I'm not ripping people off. That's just a natural thing.
Yeah.
So you're gonna work harder and
I can think of exceptions, not to rag on BJJ, but
yeah. Definitely. You're gonna get shot one day.
You're a bad person. If you're just trying to rip people off, you're gonna end up where you're gonna end up. But
I know plenty of places that jack up the prices and then they leave, and then they just stop showing up and leave their purple belt to run. So. Oh,
I've heard about that. That. Yeah. And as far as grandfathering people in, I used to do that, but I don't anymore because I got to a point where I had raised my prices, and then I was like, and then I had, of course, these old students that like I love and like I want them to keep coming, but I'm like, there's actually no reason for them to be paying like half of what this other family's paying. There's no reason like beyond just, and they've been paying like the lower price for like however many months and years. And like, okay, let's just put everybody on the same playing field and again, it goes back to being paid for the work that you're doing,
Yep.
So,
okay. So, my last question I guess two more because the other one's going to lead into the tournament. But how did you decide to separate out your classes? I'm looking at your schedule right now on the screen. Like, how did you decide to separate out the classes the way they are right now? Like, in terms of, because we're struggling with the same problem right now. Our kids class grew so big that we had to split it up. But then once we split it up, they're kind of like too small. The classes separately by themselves, but also we did it by beginner and intermediate kids. But now we're thinking about doing it by size, like age, basically. So how do you separate the kids class and also and also the adults? Because I know a lot of places do like beginners, like we do beginners, intermediate, advanced. Some places do all levels, beginners and competition level classes. So how do you divide that up?
That's a very important question, and that is I have found it's a question that is asked across the martial arts industry, so it's not unique to any one martial art. But there's lots of different ways to handle it, and it's basically do you do it by age or do you do it by rank? And the short answer is there's no perfect answer. So I went with age because my kids' classes were getting very big, which is a great problem to have. And then, but for safety reasons, you want to have smaller classes, the right number of kids on the mat, So I decided to divide it by age, and that actually caused more like upset among parents than raising price. Raising price, they don't care, because they pay for a lot of things, right? Parents just pay for everything. But if you mess with their schedule, then they're like, oh, we can't make it at that time.
The same experience here.
Or you have like one kid that's 8 and one kid that's 11. And it's like, okay, well, but they really need to be in the same class because I can't come for two different times. So then, I end up making exceptions, so it's not like a hard and fast rule. So especially for like two siblings that want to be together, I'm like, okay, that's fine. So it's really just, you got to draw the line somewhere. There's no perfect answer. And as far as I know, there's no like easy, perfect solution. It's just, probably belt ranks can work too. It's just, you just got to draw the line somewhere. So
that goes for adults too. Like,
So for adults, what I've been doing and what I like to do is just everybody in the same class except for novices, right? Because especially for judo, you got to learn how to fall, right? And you got to learn how to grip, and you got to learn how to like not stiff arm all the time. And you got to learn Yurukemi and so et cetera, et cetera. So that's what our novice class is for. And then, I recommend people come to novice class if they can, right? Because we only have 2 novice classes a week. If you can come to those classes, it's great to come and just get your feet wet, for about a month or at least a month or 2. Some people stay in the novice class for like a year or more because they just like, oh, first my schedule, I like it. And then they also start going to other classes. But yeah, I think, but again, there's some people that are like pretty athletic, like say you have like a 29-year-old guy who's always been athletic, like he can fall down and stand back up. He never learned how to do judo. Maybe he did a little bit of wrestling here and there. And that kind of person can just jump into the regular class, and they'll learn how to fall on the first night. It's not a big deal.
Do you have like a belt rank system for the novice class? Like you kind of graduated from the novice class if you got it?
No. It's anybody can come to the novice class. And a lot of times some brown belts will come to the novice class because our novice class is only 45 minutes. And they're like, well, that's all I got time for today, but I'll just go and get in, a quick 45 minutes of judo, There's no randori. We work on basic stuff. And, it's for the way we do our adult belt system is white, yellow, green, and then brown, 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 and then black.
Okay. So you got rid of it. That's neither the USJA, USA Judo, or USJF system.
Yeah, it's just our own system. Yeah.
It's the 510 system. All right.
Hey, you're missing out on belt fees.
You didn't get that from the Taekwondo. You have to charge for every individual. You got to do rainbow. You got to do everything.
Oh, right. Yeah, more belts. Yeah, that's true. No, that's too much. It's too much.
Yeah. So you meant going back a little bit. You mentioned having trouble if green belt shows up and a white belt shows up, then you kind of have that kind of trouble. Have you heard of like the reverse classroom model? Like we did an episode.
Did you mention that a couple of podcasts ago?
Yeah, we mentioned
Anthony loves
that. It was on BJJ Mental Models.
I don't know the details. I just know.
So basically, you pre-record what you're gonna teach on videos, and then your students watch it at home, and then when they show up to class, they're actually just working on their own thing. And you walk around like correcting them basically and helping them.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That could be that sounds like it could be scaled.
Yes, it's very scalable.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I just started recording some Ukemi videos, and then I got sick, and actually I got hurt from recording it too. That's because I was recording what you shouldn't do.
Oh yeah,
take a fall, and I got hurt doing that thing, so I had to take time off. And then while I was editing it, I was like, I need to record more parts. So
I'm sure it makes for great footage, though. You just put a big line through it with an X.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that.
So that's something. If you haven't checked it out, just look it up. It's used in the academic space too. So maybe ask your wife about it. Yeah.
Reverse teaching or something.
Reverse classroom model.
Reverse classroom model. Oh, check it out.
Yeah. And I don't know what also about the ecological stuff that we were talking about that generated kind of some controversy. Like, do you have any opinions on that?
I'm sorry. What was the
ecological skill acquisition stuff?
Ecological school acquisition. Oh, you're saying where you don't teach people how to fall or something?
Yeah, I don't. I think it's been kind of debunked that they don't actually teach. They actually do teach people how to fall. It's just their definition of teaching is different from what other people's definition of teaching is.
I haven't looked into the details. I try to listen to all the podcasts, but sometimes it's just on in the background and I'm doing something else, so I may have missed that part.
All right, that's
no worries.
No offense taken.
Anthony, it's Anthony's you love around. He loves this stuff. It's
so I was just interested, curious if you had any opinions on it, but that's fine.
I'm curious about it. I do remember you guys talking about it, but I don't know the specifics. It's like you teach them how to fall like situationally, or like it's not as a separate skill, or.
So I've been experimenting with it because there was a guy called Cal Jones, I think his name was. I got it wrong last time. I'm calling him Caleb, but it was Cal Jones. So he's in the UK. He's like obviously knows more than I do because he actually studies this as his job as a professor, I think, or a PhD student. But the other podcast that talked about it was saying how he doesn't teach people how to fall, but then when I looked a bit more into it, he basically doesn't have a good system for teaching people how to fall. He basically thinks the best way of learning how to fall is just having someone throw you. And that requires like a black belt basically, or a brown belt, someone who knows how to throw. And you can't have a brown or a black belt for every student. So what what I've been experimenting with recently is trying to use BJJ sweeps, like a tripod sweep, or what do you call it, a tripod sweep, waiter sweep. I've been using those to teach people how to fall, because even if they post their arm out, it's not that damaging, and it's more realistic versus when you fall backwards yourself, you kind of retain this control and you know when the fall is coming. So I've been kind of using more BJJ sweeps to teach people how to fall and practice that way. Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's just one way I've been doing it, but it's like keeping things real, basically. Instead of having, I guess, what they call dead drills that they're pretty far away from how things happen in reality. So
I see. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting because I just got done teaching a unit on Osotogari for the adult novices, and we were teaching it very traditional. And then at the end of the class, I was like, look, guys, you're all doing pretty well with this kind of Osotogari. Just FYI, it doesn't work.
Don't you love that?
If you try it and it doesn't work. So the reason we're doing it is so you learn the basic mechanics of the off balance and to the corner and all this stuff. And, there are ways we do teach. If you come to the other classes, not the novice class, we'll teach you like the gripping and the setup and the movement and like the flim flam and the dim zam and the the back step and all this stuff. But yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying, because I'll actually send it to you later after we record. I have a short recording of how I teach Osotogari that I've been sharing to some people privately. So I was interested in getting your opinions on it. So
I'll take a look. Yeah.
All right. So next thing, So going to lead into the competition stuff is insurance. Like how are you insured for your dojo? Let's start with that. And then is it through USA Judo? Like, what's your opinion on the insurance that they offer, or whether it's even worth it, and all that kind of jazz?
We have just our insurance for private martial arts insurance. It's I can tell you if you're interested, it's karateinsurance.com. Karate.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that before. Yeah.
I'm not like, I don't get a referral bonus, but what's that?
I think I saw them in Black Belt, advertising for them in Black Belt magazine before.
Yeah, it's fine. Like it's a legit regular insurance company, and they just that's one of their specialties is they insure martial arts, and it's a very easy process, and customer service is pretty good, and the rates are reasonable.
Do they verify that you have a black belt in the art that you're teaching? Like, do you have to do a background check?
No. It's just like you have a business and you need insurance for your business. Okay, what are your business activities? Okay, well, here's the insurance rate. Okay,
what about so that applies to your instructors that you pay too?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have. Did you have to get them? Like, did it have to be officially your employee? Like, any sort of paperwork or tax documents or anything?
Oh, you're thinking of it's called additional insured.
Yeah.
So we had to get one of those for the landlord is the additional insured, and then also for the instructors, the instructors are covered already. So it's part of the business activities.
Okay. So you basically just like, if I show up tomorrow, I'm like, hey, I'm going to stay in your house for a week, and you're like, oh, can you teach class for a week? Then I don't need to like do any sort of
exactly. Yeah. No. It's yeah. As far as I know. Yeah. I mean, I'll check the details of my policy, but I think that's
Anthony's always looking for free places to sleep. He's already got a place in Europe right now in Blackpool. Now he's looking for a place in the Bay now. He's always looking for free place to sleep at.
I actually don't like going to the Bay Area, but I mentioned it in the last episode, but I'll have to, my wife goes up there for work pretty often. So,
nice.
Yeah.
No, it's like, so one of the problems with USJF, USA Judo and all that stuff is that like everyone has to be a member. So that's an additional $100 a year. And they have to be a member, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong. I think last time I checked, you have to be a member before you get on the mat at all.
Yes.
So like, even for your free trial, you have to pay $100 for your free trial. It's like,
exactly. That's how we do it.
Like, I'm not going to do a free trial. Then I'll go to the Taekwondo school down the street, which is as a policy that makes sense. So,
So you got the insurance, if I remember correctly, you got the insurance for the tournament through the same company.
No, I actually got it through the school district.
Oh,
yeah, because
how does that work?
Well, they're renting out their high school gym, and they're like, anything that takes place here has to be insured. We don't want, you to be having an uninsured sports activity going on. So here's the insurer that we usually use for sports activities. Would you like to use this one? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
How much does it cost?
It was like a couple $100. Yeah, it's like not a big deal. Everyone thinks insurance is like so difficult. It's like, just call an insurance company and ask them to insure you, and if they can't do it, they'll refer you to someone who can. Like,
it's because I'm gonna get so much shit for it. It's because they make it. You know who I'm talking about, make such a big deal out of it. Like, oh my god, what are we gonna do about insurance? Like, we're gonna have to sign these waivers. We're gonna do this. Like, and here you are. You're just like. Like $200.
Well, again, look at jiu-jitsu. I mean, jiu-jitsu is like, they're not part of USA Judo. They're not part of USJF. A lot of jiu-jitsu schools are not part of IBJJF. They're not part of certified by NAGA or 10th Planet or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I teach jiu-jitsu. I opened up a jiu-jitsu school. I need some insurance. I called the insurance company. It's like, it's not such a huge deal.
But you probably look at the same Facebook post that I see where they're like making a big deal about the whole insurance thing with the stuff that's going on right now. So
you'd have to be more specific, but I think I know where you're going with this. But
yeah, basically with the alliance agreement being no longer a thing, now they're worried about insurance for a while, and then now we're seeing people buying private insurance, and they're worried about the costs and all that kind of stuff. But you're just saying it's only $200.
Cost is not that much. Yes, it's not that much. It depends on the size of your tournament. you're having now. I understand, if it's not like just some random guy, if it's like USA Judo throwing a national tournament, then of course it makes sense for them to require everyone to be a member of USA Judo, and stuff like that. Also, one of the referees explained it to me. They said, of course you can throw a tournament with no sanction. There's no law against it, but what referees will show up? Because what happens to the referee if they're in an unsanctioned tournament, freak accident, somebody gets paralyzed, and then they get sued, the referee gets sued, and, among whoever gets sued, I get sued, a bunch of people get sued. And then when they're on the stand, they're like, so you're at this unsanctioned tournament, huh? And it
just sounds bad. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds bad. And it's like, so I get it,
So even if you're insured, if you're unsanctioned, then it's still not a good idea, is what you're saying.
I think you could throw a judo tournament without a sanction. I think it's fine. I did it in the past where it was just, a little get together in my dojo. And then I'm reffing all the matches, but for a bigger tournament, a sanction is nice because it means your tournament meets a certain minimum standard. That's it. It means that, the mats have to be there has to be a certain safety area between the mats. There has to be, a certain, there's just a certain way of doing things.
That's my biggest complaint about competing in BJJ tournaments. They don't have a large safety area.
The mats are tiny too. They're the mats are this big.
I almost assaulted the guy onto concrete and then I stopped. And then I got a single leg taken down because I stopped.
It's.
So you decided to go with USA Judo. Was there a reason for that, or just?
We're a USA Judo club. We don't require everyone to be USA Judo members, but a lot of people are. And we do require them to get their USA Judo membership and maintain it once they reach EQ, right? Because then, for rank promotion, for belt certification purposes. And then also, obviously if you're competing, you have to be a member of some place. So why not USA Judo? I'm not as far as the whole USA Judo, USJF stuff going on, I don't really have a dog in that fight. I don't care. But USA Judo is the actual, non-governmental body that governs judo in the United States. It's not USJF. So, let's just work to improve USA Judo. If you really hate USA Judo, there's actually a process by which you can, a legal process by which you can decertify USA Judo and then make your own USA Judo. There's a process for that, but people don't want to do that. They just want to bitch on Facebook, it's in that. You should do things the way when I was a kid. And it's like, shut up and contribute, have you I'm not, people. So I think a guy approached me once and he was like, oh, you should run for the board of directors spot for athlete representative. And I was like, how much does it pay? Because I'm busy and I have a business to run, is it really going to make a difference? I don't care that much about USA Judo. I appreciate USA Judo for what it is. And they do some things really well and they do some things that are not so good.
Just like any other organization. Charging belt test fees.
Yeah. Get a dig. Well, okay. Well, I want to get to, enough of this downer stuff now. I want to talk about so you have you running this tournament. So the first tournament I saw you try to run was the beach tournament. Yeah. And then because from one of my students that was up there going to, where's Junior going? He was going to Berkeley, was it, I believe? He was going to tell me, he's like, yeah, Javier's boy.
Javier Berkeley. Okay, just continue. Sorry.
That he was telling me that a lot of tournaments were being canceled up there, that he would hear about a tournament, then it'd get canceled. And you were one of the people that said, I'm going to do a judo tournament. I'm going to have it. I'm not going to cancel it. We're going to do this. All right. We're going to get this ball rolling. How did that come about? You're like, you know what? If everyone's failing, I'm going to make this shit happen.
Well, I don't know. I wanted to have more opportunities for my students. We had, we were doing our little in-house tournament, in the dojo. And then a lot of times it's just for intramural, it's just for 510 judo students, just to practice, tournament situation. And there's no entry fee and no medals, But then I was like, then sometimes every once in a while we'll do when we open up to other people and it's like, okay, you guys can enter too. And senseis will get together and try to arrange matches, you know, get the little cheap medals and you know, and the last time we did that, it was like a bunch of people showed up, including like these like studly teenage purple belts who were just going at it, and they were literally bouncing off the walls. And I was like, okay, there's definitely a demand here, like for some judo, like a larger competition area. And so like, I was like, that's what convinced me. I was like, if I throw a tournament, people will show up, you know, like they want it, you know? So, I was looking, number one is mats, right? So I had to get mats. So I had to find a place that I didn't have mats, and I didn't want to spend $60,000 on like a new set of mats. Mm-hmm. So I was calling around to different high schools that had wrestling programs. And I was like, can I use the wrestling mats for a judo tournament? A bunch of places said no. And then this one place I found through one of my old jiu-jitsu buddies. He is also a wrestling referee in the area for high school and stuff. And so I asked him, and he said he knew one of his old students who was like now the coach at Castro Valley High School for the women's team. And so they hooked him, and they were like, yeah, you can use the mats. And I was like, great. So I'll do it there. And then I had to reserve the facility and all this stuff. I busted out the credit card. I actually opened a new credit card, and I was like, I hope like all the money gets paid back from the entry fees. And, but once I had the mats and once I had the facility, the venue, mats and venue, then everything else is like just details, some large details. All right. But basically that's the important part.
And I know to run your tournament, you did it through a Smoothcomp. How was that? Was it easy to set that up and was it like set up easy, then just send the email to everybody like, okay, here's a competition. Here's how you sign up right here. Really easy. Just plug and play, as people like to say.
Pretty much. There is a bit of a learning curve with Smoothcomp, and I made a thank you video, but I left a bunch of people out. Some of the people that I left out was Frank and Eric Sanchez from Guerrero's Judo, because I had just gone to Golden State Open, and I was impressed with them because when I had like a couple students that had some issues, and I would Facebook Messenger them, and they'd get back to me like within minutes, and they'd be like, oh, like blah blah blah, and they'd tell me all the details. And so they were really great at running their tournament, and I was like, let me try and emulate them and do what they're doing. So I asked them, I said, look, once I got on Smoothcomp, I was like, you know, you have to set up all the different categories and everything. And I was like, and once I had the venue, I actually only had 2 months to set up the tournament. So I was like, just cranking on everything, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I emailed, or I Facebook Messengered the Sanchez brothers, and I said, can you give me your Smoothcomp template? And then I can just like,
they have templates.
Yeah. Well, they have a template. Once you create a tournament, it's like all the settings are saved. So I used the Golden State Open template.
So how do they send you a template? Was it like a file, or is it like you can share it with a different account kind of thing?
Yeah, it's through Smoothcomp. Basically, like you, I had this idea, and I don't know. I was like, I don't know if it's possible, but can you? So I asked Smoothcomp support first. I was like, is it possible that I could use somebody else's judo tournament template? And they were like, yeah, if they agree to it, that's fine. Okay. So then I messaged them and I said, can I use your template? And they were like, they emailed back and they were like, well, we thought about it. And
no.
They're like, we're going to do it. But you know, it was a lot of work, you know, it was a lot of work. And now we're just handing it to you on a silver platter. I mean, they didn't use those words, but they were like, just be aware it was a lot of work that you're skipping now. And I was like, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. So Frank and Eric Sanchez from Guerrero's Judo, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, they did it. It's Golden State Open. Even before they used Smoothcomp, it was like one of my favorite local tournaments locally. I never competed in it, but just coaching it and going to spectate. Yeah, I think I just had knee surgery when we the last few times, and then the last time I was sick. But yeah, it's one of the best run tournaments in the local area. Definitely want to compete in that in some time. So templates, how much did it cost? Like how do they price their model, I guess?
It's like 1.3 euros per competitor.
Oh, they're a European company.
Yeah, they're based in like Switzerland or Sweden or something.
Okay. 1.3 euros.
Yeah, so support hours are weird, but they usually get back to you pretty quick. But yeah, it's 1.3 euros, I think, per registrant. And, if you're charging like, 50, 60 bucks for registration, it's like,
that's nothing.
Yeah. It's very reasonable.
This interview so far has been blowing my mind because I'm just like, what are those people bitching about? Like,
it is. It's just like, it's more about just people being lazy and stuff. It's just like with the insurance, it's like, well, it's just easier to get everything through USA Judo than do the work myself and pay the $200 or $300 in a cost for insurance.
We can't ask people for help and share their templates. Like,
yeah, just reach out. It's like when I was handing out the flyers in the sandwich shop. It's like, the worst someone could say is no. Just ask. Just ask and be like, just like, hey, like, can I do this? Sometimes people will say no. Sometimes people say yes.
Given how much I've heard people bitch about Smoothcomp, like about its cost, like saying, well, we can't use Smoothcomp because we got to pay. We're not making enough money already, so now we have to pay for this. I thought it would have been like 50 people would be like $500, and then like 100 people would be like 1,000, like a tier system like that. That's what I thought it was going to be, but this is like very reasonable.
Yeah, super reasonable.
This shows how lazy people are. So
can't speak for other people. I don't know.
So the Bay Area Championships, I take it because it seemed like a big success. There's going to be another one next year, then, correct?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe at the same place. I don't know. Maybe the same time of year. I don't know. I think we might want to move it to the spring because July was cool, but it unfortunately ended up being on the exact same day, same weekend, same day as the Cal State Games.
Yeah.
Which but again, it was a tournament for Northern California people, and like it's like, okay, finally we don't have to go down to Southern California. So in that sense,
I was seeing you here pretty often. I'm like, man, don't you guys have tournaments up there? Like,
yeah, and in that sense, it was fine. But I'd rather not do it on the same day as another tournament. And then also, a lot of people go on vacation in July. So although a lot of people did show up, there was a couple people that showed up right, like Chuck Jefferson had just got back from Japan a couple of days before he showed up. Sensei John from UC Berkeley, he just got back from vacation. He showed up. So, and it was just a great community event. Like, a guy named the guy from Alameda High School. I don't know if you Alameda High School around here. They've been having a judo program in their school, like as a PE class for like 50 years. Yeah,
really. I never knew about that. Huh.
Yeah, Dave Quinones. Yeah, Dave Quinones retired about 5-10 years ago. But I think he got somebody to take it over. But Dave Quinones showed up, just like out of the blue. He just put his hand on my shoulder. He was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey," and I was like, because I've seen him as a tournament director, and now like he saw me there, and my sensei came, and oh man, it was just fun. It was a lot of fun. I messed up a couple things for sure. I made a couple mistakes, but overall it went well.
So did you expect people to come referee for you, or did you? Because I saw that there were like US actual referees there. Like
there were real referees. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I reached out to just everybody that I knew. Sensei Max Rayner from Palo Alto Judo, super cool guy. I was in touch with. He contacted his sensei Cal Kitura from Palo Alto. I think it's IJF A or B. And Palo Alto's been throwing tournaments for, like 50 years, something like that. So I knew they had a lot of experience. So, and Max Rayner, just like, he called me up. He basically just gave me like a real quick like class for like 40 minutes. He was like, do this, and this, and you got to do this and that. And like, blah, 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 the radios for the referees, and like referees got to have water and snacks. And like, he's like, yeah, if you can do all that, each of them get like $50 too. And then like, I'll email my contacts, and I'll get you a bunch of referees. And I was like,
so you had to buy the radios.
What's that?
You had to buy the radios.
No, apparently radios are like chef's knives. You're supposed to have your own. So yeah, so referees were supposed to show up with their own radios, although some didn't, and that was fine because whatever.
It's not required. Yeah,
it's not required. We didn't use the care system because we didn't have the extra cameras.
So you had 3 ref.
No, we just had the one ref in the middle, and then we had the table.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So
yeah,
did you have?
I mean, some of them had radios, but the ones that didn't, I think the head ref just stood up and was like, "Hey,
hey, look at her, hey, wave that off, wave it off."
Did you have a backup plan for if you weren't able to get any refs?
I did not, because Sensei Max was able to reassure me that within a couple weeks of the tournament, he was like, "Yeah, it'll be fine. Like we'll have like
within a couple." How long ago did you decide to have this tournament?
Oh, well, it was, like I said before, it was like just a very short planning.
Oh.
Yeah, his 2 month his 2 month window. Remember that.
So if he said no, would you have gone ahead with trying to scrape together some people to just ref? Like we went to the.
I'm certified as a local referee through USJF like many years ago, so I'm technically a referee. And then I know like 2 or 3 other referees, like personally. They were like, "Yeah, we'll come." So I was like, "Whatever, we'll just do it." I don't know. Like, so that, I mean, kind of the seat of the pants there, but Sensei Max saved us. So, and then also Sensei David Williams, who's IJFA, he did not come, but he trains a lot of referees at his dojo.
Mm-hmm.
And so he sent a couple kids that were, referees in training, who were also quite good. So.
Yeah, we went to the Nikkei games when they had kendo and karate on the side, and
that was cool.
One thing I always thought was interesting was kendo always had their own, like after someone's done with their fight or if they don't have a fight for a while, they ref their own games. They don't have like official referees that only do reffing. So I always wonder if that's possible for judo, but judo has a lot more convoluted rules. I feel like when it comes to Shido, especially, but scoring wise, I don't think it's that big of a difference.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like what Juan was saying. I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Yeah. I don't care like how it happens. It's going to be, if it's going to be makeshift, it'll be makeshift, but I'm going to have a tournament.
So I forgot to ask, like we asked a little bit about it, but like, so you said you use wrestling mats. So you just probably made like squares or tape to show like what the ring is area, right?
No. So what we did was we had mat covers. Again, another thank you to Sensei Richie Endow from San Gabriel Valley Judo Club. That I know him, and he. So one of my parents, he takes his kid who's very into competition. She was like national champion a couple of years and national champion again this year. She got gold at the U.S. Open, et cetera. So he takes her around to a bunch of competitions. He took her to one of the Las Vegas tournaments, and they had these mat covers. They were using wrestling mats with mat covers. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, okay, how can we get some mat covers? Let's find out. So apparently it's like made of like this like boating material. It's like boat furniture, vinyl seat covers. Mm-hmm. And you just get this like gigantic piece of it, and then you like stitch it together. And then you use vinyl tape on top of that. And I was looking into it, and I talked to a guy. He was like, "Yeah, I can do it for you. Like, I can make that for you. It'll be about like $6,000."
Can I rent them from you? I'll give them back right when I'm done.
I guess my tournament's not going to make any money, but like I'll have them made, and then I'll just have them. But Sensei Richie, he was like, "You can use ours," and he mailed them to us. And
how big is it?
It covers the whole mat.
Yeah, he mailed it to you. So I'm just thinking
you fold it up and you put it in a big box. You cover it with tape. But it's but no, it doesn't cover the whole thing. It's 8 meters by 8 meters. So it's that's the entire competition area. So then you lay that on top of the wrestling mat and you tape it down.
Mm-hmm. So how many mats did you guys have? 3 or 4?
So that's another story. We had hold on, let me turn on the light over here.
All right.
So we had not much different anyway. We had so we were going to have 4 mats, and then when I got to the venue, like the week before for a walkthrough, they were like, "So here's the wrestling coach who's loaning me the mats for free." She said, "So here's what we can do. We can have 4 mats, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a square, but then you're only going to have one side of bleachers because that's the room. Or you can have 3 mats down the middle, and then you'll have both sides of bleachers." And I was like, "Oh man, that sucks," because like I wanted both sides of bleachers, and 4 mats, but I couldn't have that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess we'll just have 4 mats and one side of bleachers." There's like a quad with like benches and stuff. People can come in and out. Mm-hmm. Then the day before, so I was setting up in Smoothcomp, and in Smoothcomp I have 4 virtual mats where I'm assigning the matches to. Like after the weigh-ins are closed, And then I'm making the brackets and I'm assigning the brackets to each mat. Mat 1, 2, 3, 4 within Smoothcomp. Then like Saturday, the day before the tournament, around like 4 p.m., 5 p.m., she texts me or calls me and she's like, look, we're only going to have 3 mats because I loaned the mats out to some like other middle school. They're supposed to bring them back. Now it's summertime. They didn't bring them back. No one's answering my phone calls. You're only going to have 3 mats. I was like, so then I was like, okay, I guess so. Then I deleted one of the mats. Now we have mats 1, 2, 3. So I'm reassigning the brackets and the matches back to mats 1, 2, and 3. With only 3 mats, the matches were going to go until like 7 p.m. Start at 9, go to 7. I was like, that's going to suck.
Hey, don't complain. I went to a Nika games one year. I waited at 8 o'clock. My first match was until like almost 8:20. Okay. So I've gone through hell and back. All right. So when people complain about like, I've been here 5 hours, 6 hours, don't you give me that. I've been at a tournament for 12 hours before.
So what did Smoothcomp say originally the tournament was going to end at? And when the
like 7:20 would be the last match.
That's 4 mats.
Yeah, with 4 mats. No, with 3 mats. With 3 mats.
So with 4 mats, do you know what it was going to be for? When it was going to end?
So what we did was, I was like, I went to bed and I was like, oh, it's going to suck. I was like, okay, whatever. We're still going to do it. And then I went to bed at midnight and I woke up at 4 a.m. because that's how early I had to be up to get to the venue and everything and set everything up. And then I woke up and I was like, it's like, when you wake up and you have that idea, I was like, we'll just divide the mat. And one of the mats will be 2 big mats and 2 small mats. And the 2 small mats will be for little kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was like, I'm a genius, like I've saved the day. So
that's what you should do at every tournament, by the way.
Well, so what I had to do was then we had to get to the tournament site. And before we could set it up that way, I had to have my head referee physically look at it with his own eyeballs and say, yes, I approve that. That's fine. Despite there being much less safety area than there is supposed to be.
So what, that didn't affect your sanction?
It didn't, because the head referee, who is IJFA or B or whatever, and he looked at it and he approved it. He said, yes, that's fine. And that's what I needed. So I had to wait until he got there at 8 a.m. to do that. And so then I was like, okay, now I do that. And then I hopped back on the computer and I was like, in between 8 and 9, let me just reassign all these matches back from 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2, 3, 4. And so when people woke up that morning and they looked at their Smoothcomp and they were like, oh, like, especially like adult, veterans, they were like, oh, my match is not until 3:30. I'm not going to get there until 2:30, or my match is not until like 6 p.m. I won't get there until 5 p.m., which is exactly what Smoothcomp is for. And that's perfect, But then we reassigned everything. And so then their match moved from 6 p.m. to 3 p.m., which is great because then it's a shorter tournament. But then it's like,
people didn't know
these people. Fortunately, Smoothcomp has a thing where you can email or text directly from within the application. And I texted a bunch of these people and I said, hey, here's your new match time, check it out. Like, if you can come earlier, please do. Like, we'll wait for you, but try and come as soon as you can. And I think, I might be wrong, but I don't think anyone missed a match because of that. I think people were able to come earlier.
One of our members missed their match because of that. And I was like, there has to be a system where they can notify you that your match got moved up by like 4 hours or something like that. But he missed it. And they said it was your fault for not checking every hour. But
oh, that sucks. Yeah. It does suck. Another thing that I messed up on was, I promised in multiple different areas, different emails and social media posts. I said, we're going to have one of these TVs up where you can go, you don't have to check your phone. You can go at the tournament site. You can just go look at the thing and that'll be the most updated thing. And I didn't set it up. We actually had an extra computer and TV and internet to have that.
But you had no time.
I ran out of time. I was like, tournament's going to start,
Yeah. So when you divided up those small mats for the kids, like did the cover, how did you like did you have to change that?
So the cover is 8, I think it's about 8 meters by 8 meters, might be 7 by 7. But so 2 of those covers do fit on one big wrestling mat, but it just goes very close to the edge.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I don't know if this is going to really pass muster. Let me see if my head ref approves of it. So 2 of them did fit on that one mat. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Wow, there's so much work behind the scenes, and
it's a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully next year we didn't make any money, but we didn't lose a lot of money. hopefully next year, I think next year we'll make some money.
What do you think was the main cost that made, because you got a lot of help. It seems like you got the covers for free, you got the mats for free. You only had to pay the venue. The insurance wasn't as much as it was. Smoothcomp doesn't cost as much as we thought it was.
I completely screwed up on the number of medals. Yes. So the math that I did in my head was I made all these pre-made divisions, and I was like, and they were basically based on, I converted everything from kilos to pounds. Yeah. Because I wanted it to be more accessible, and I wanted it to be more accessible. So I named it like, U7 for 5 and 6 year olds, U9 for 7 and 8 year olds. Because I was like, oh, it's like soccer and hockey. Like people will be used to that. Mm-hmm. Some people were still confused by it, but they were mostly like Russian and stuff, so they didn't know what that meant. But where was I going with that? What were we talking about?
Costs lost. Like where was most of the cost coming from then?
So I made all these divisions ahead of time that people could just register for, instead of, because it's, I didn't want to do pooled weight because that's a lot of work. So I was like, let me just make these divisions. People can enter the divisions. If no one shows up for that division, we won't run it. Yeah. So I went through, I looked at all the divisions, and I was like, what if every single division is filled with at least 3 competitors? I was like, what if that happens? I need to have medals for everybody. So I took every single division, which was like sometimes for like boys and girls, so male and female. And then like, for each age group, there's like, between 3 to 7 weight classes, So I multiplied that by 3 for gold, silver, and bronze. And I ended up buying like 950 medals.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And I used less than 300 of them. And get this, they all say 2023 on the front.
That was going to be my next question. And I'm like, please don't make that mistake.
It's okay. We get a sticker. We cover it up next year, okay? Or we get some etching tools. All right, you send it out here to LA. I'll help you out. Give me some etching tools. I will take out the 3, and someone would put a 4 in there. All right.
I actually found I was going through some old stuff, and I found an old medal from like 1994 Watsonville Judo Club, Watsonville Judo Tournament. I think I got a bronze medal. But it said Watsonville Judo on the front, Judo Tournament, and then on the back it has a
sticker.
Not a sticker. It was like a nice metal tab, but it said 1994. I was like, oh, so then the next year you just put 1995 on it, Maybe I'll do that. Yeah.
So what are you going to do with the leftover medals? That's like 600 medals.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Cause I don't want to give them away, because that's like, then it makes the medals that are out there in circulation that people actually won. It makes them less special, Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I guess
are they actual medals, like medals?
I mean, they're whatever medals they're made of. That's not actual gold, silver, and bronze, but it's like whatever.
Because there's some plastic ones, right?
No, they're made of metal. They're made of metal. Yeah.
So maybe you can scrap metal it, like
at least metal.
No, seriously, recoup some of your costs at least.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
What I was going to say is that, well, since you have those in-house tournaments, you use them at your in-house tournament. Also, hey, you got like what, a few more months still. All right, you're in-house, and I want to get this before. If you want to have another beach tournament, you can use a couple at your beach tournament. Are you thinking about doing that again?
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I might do that.
So that was the main reason you lost money.
Several $1,000s. Yeah.
So if let's say you didn't mess up on that, have you done the math whether you would have made money or broke even?
Yeah, I would have made money. I would have made like a couple $1,000s. It was, that the medals made the difference. Yeah.
Okay. So it was like you sounds like you did majority of the work, but did you get any help outside of the help that we talked about, which is like connections and loaning equipment and stuff like that? Did you get any help from anyone, or in terms of setting things up, organizing, contacting people, making sure things are running smoothly?
I should have asked for more help in that regard, because I didn't.
Because it sounds like you did everything, honestly, from what.
I didn't really delegate appropriately. One thing that I messed up on for sure was scoring tables, volunteers. Mm-hmm. So I sent out an email. And I was like, hey, anyone wants to volunteer to be a scorer, a scorekeeper, let me know.
I didn't get an email.
Was that? Oh no! Well, you were in Southern California. You go to California.
Yeah, we were busy that weekend. All right. So actually, no, you didn't go. Were you in San Diego? Yeah, we were in San Diego.
Yeah, no, I purposely didn't market to Southern California because I didn't want to feel like I was stealing from Cal State Games. Not that anyone would choose to come to our tournament over Cal State Games, but next year I'll be working in Southern California. But yeah, so people emailed back and they were like, yeah, I'll come. I've done scorekeeping, you know, and so I was like, oh, cool. I can count on those people. They all did. What I should have done was be like, emailed them back again and be like, okay, can you be on mat 1 from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.? But I didn't do that. I just hoped that people would show up at the beginning of the tournament.
And then you figure it out in the beginning, right?
Yeah, no. And then they showed up. They all showed up eventually throughout the day. When 9 a.m. came around, I was like, oh, who's going to be at mat 1, mat 2, 3? I have no idea. So I had to grab a couple people and like, but it all worked out. We did start about half an hour late, but yeah.
Okay. Well, that's nothing.
And I got a ton of help, like setting up and breaking down. Like there was like a couple people that just volunteered out of their own goodness of their hearts. Like at the end of the day, they stayed like 2 extra hours. Angelo, who's one of my judo dads, Minobu, who's one of the senseis, one of the referees, and then like this one guy who competed, he stayed around, and then 2 of his friends who didn't even compete, they were like, yeah, we'll help break down the tournament for like 2 hours just for fun. So that was great. And then in the morning, of course, I had a whole bunch of volunteers there in the morning. Some of the parents, I made a whole video about that. I was trying to think of everybody, but yeah, it was cool. It was a fun event.
Yeah. Let me know next year if it's not, I'm not busy. I'd love to help you organize the tournament.
That would be great.
I mean, I'm pretty tech oriented, so I can help you with all the tech stuff too.
Would you like to be on mat 1 from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.?
Yeah.
Can you commit to that right now?
Yeah, I can commit to that.
Okay, I'm going to write that down in my note-taking software.
So, how hard was it to get the USA Judo sanction? I heard from everyone it's not that difficult. You just basically pay them like what, $100?
Yeah, it's like 100, 150, something like that. And you fill out a form. And I had to be a little careful with the language because so what they want a tournament packet. Even though everything's online with Smoothcomp, they want that PDF that has everything on it. And so I put that together, and then and they had to know who the head referee was. So, put that on there. The rules have to be on there.
So you had to have like a approved referee, like
yeah.
Okay, that's funny because USA Judo doesn't train referees. I thought it was all left up to. They do.
I think so. I don't think we hear a lot about it because we're on the West Coast.
I guess I'm only hearing from the other 2 organizations that they train the referees for USA Judo. That's how I understood it, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Juan, do you have anything else about the tournament? There's a couple other questions I want to ask before we're taking up like a lot of his time.
Yeah, we are taking a lot of your time up, but I do want to get back to, I keep bringing this up because I thought it was a very cool concept you did it, was the beach tournament you did, which is beach wrestling and beach submission. Are you going to do one of those again, or how did that first one? Because I know you said a lot of people didn't show up for it, but are you eager to try it out again?
I'll probably do it again just to have a beach day. Like it was fun. Like all it takes is like you just have to get a rope and you just make a circle. Like I didn't charge anything for it. I didn't give out any medals. I know you can go through because USA Wrestling is. I'm sure I could with a minimum of effort. Make it a USA Wrestling event, and do it that way. But yeah, I'll probably do it again. It was fun. It was just something to do, we got to make our own rules. And so, yeah, but short answer, no, I don't have anything on the docket and it's already mid-August, but I should do something. Yeah.
we're going to mess it. I'm going to see you on your Instagram tomorrow. Beach tournament next weekend.
Yeah.
Everyone gets medals out there. Yeah.
So, are we done with the tournament questions?
Yeah. I think we are.
Okay. So I want to ask you more about, you started posting on your YouTube channel some technique videos. Like, is that been picking up? Is that something you want to keep doing? Like, how did you get any feedback from it?
I do want to keep doing it. I just don't want to say that. I have not made the time. I haven't made the time to do it. You got to have someone, you need at least 3 people. You need Tori and Uke and a cameraman. Cause I haven't invested in one of those fancy things that like follows your movement, Yeah. but yeah, I would love to do that. And Here's another thing. I would also say for anyone who has a dojo, go ahead and do that. My hang up was like, why would I make an Uchimata video when I'm just me? Like, I'm not this guy, like what, why, because you can watch this guy on YouTube, like,
for those who are on audio, he's wearing, Jonah's wearing a Kosei Inoue shirt. He's like pointing to it.
Yeah. Sorry. No, Kosei Inoue. Yeah. So like, and like Travis Stevens has a ton of free content on YouTube, there's all those videos. And so I actually, one of my members said, "Oh, are you going to make some technique videos?" And I was like, "Oh, there's." So then I explained. I was like, there's so much good stuff on YouTube. And they were like, "Yeah, but we don't know who those people are, and like we'd rather see you do it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because you're our sensei. And I was like, "Oh."
They also beginners don't know what's good or bad either.
Exactly, and it's honestly it's just as much work to like collate and like edit a video of someone else's video as it is to make your own. You just pull out your phone and you're just like, this is how I do Seinagi. It's pretty simple now. And there's a free app that I use to edit the videos. So I would like to do more of that. Yeah. My objective was to make, I got all excited. Sometimes I do get excited. I got all excited about one of these, like the non-judo person. She does financial advice. But she was like, send me your email and I'll send you like the blueprint for growing. This is how I made $100,000 on YouTube in my first year. And I was like, I would like to make $100,000 on YouTube in my first year. And she was like, consistency, post every week. And I was like, oh, dang, I'm not going to do that. But basically, yeah, if you pump out the content, people will come. What they say.
And, that's why we post every other week. That's our problem. We post every week.
Hey, even when we were posting our mini videos every week, they still weren't coming yet.
there's a bunch of other stuff you can do though. But yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough.
Well, like I always say, we do this for the love of the game. We do this for the love of judo. We're not out trying to become rich.
Yeah, I think we have the same conundrum that you have, which is like you said, like, who are we to show Uchimata or whatever, So. But I think there's so many little things that aren't explained for recreational people. And there's a niche there to fill. That's not technique oriented, but maybe like, for example, we've been talking a lot about training, like balancing training with work and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And also like I've been recording Kemi videos because I don't see anyone talk about like the intricacies of it and more of like, this is how you slap the mat. This is how you do a roll kind of thing. So I think there's still stuff to be discovered and recorded and talked about. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And then of course you got Shintaro Higashi, who's got like YouTube on lockdown, like if you type in anything, if you type in any technique, it's Shintaro's video. Like, oh, here's how you do it. And like, it's like, not just that, his first 3 videos are all Shintaro. Like, it's son of a gun.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't listen to our podcast, but I'm sure me and Juan was joking that he probably listens in and on our private conversations, because he actually talks about stuff like the week he will release a video right after we record it. Basically, it's happened a few times, like the same topic, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it looks really fishy, but it's I actually trained at his dojo when I was a yellow belt, and he's a great guy.
Yeah. No, he seems like a great guy. Like. It's hard to be jealous.
No, it isn't. It's easy. It's very easy to be jealous. I ain't jealous. All right.
All right. Juan, you have anything else?
No, we talked about everything. We went through a lot. Thank you so much for coming to the show with us. I know we've taken like almost 2 hours of your time. This is great. I'm sorry it's gone so long.
No, it's all good, man. Thanks for having me on. And if I could just say one more thing, I think somebody has got to open a judo dojo in Austin, Texas. Yeah, someone's got to do it.
So there is one, but there is one. But
that's not so far?
Yeah, it's actually not. Oh, hold on, headphone unplugged.
Uh-oh. They're getting us.
There actually is one, but they. How do I say this? They don't really compete, and they're kind of like sports judo isn't real judo. Kind of.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what I'm saying is there's room for more judo, and like actually in many cities. So I think lots of people should just open judo dojos. That's what I want people to do.
Yeah.
Well, it is crazy. I will say this one thing about like growing up in the South Bay and stuff, from Santa Clara. growing up, everybody knew that if you want to do judo, you had to go to San Jose State. You go to San Jose State or San Jose Buddhist and stuff, be cannon fodder for the good players out there. Like everyone knew about Cupertino, and I know there's like another paid school out there, but it's just crazy how much judo has just blown up in the South Bay so much. Like just in that area, just in that area alone where I grew up at, like in Santa Clara, all that area, like there are like 3 or 4 good clubs now, like public clubs, not just private and community center clubs, like open clubs just like yours. I'm so happy about that. I'm just happy to see so much.
We have our own Shintaro at it with Shintaro Nakano. You know, he has his dojo, which is great. You know, like there's like you said, there's a bunch of them.
I talked to one of his students, and they just came back from Japan, and man, I was like, I wish I tried to plan a dojo trip, but everyone flaked out. So I'm going to Japan by myself this October.
Oh, nice. So,
yeah.
Excellent. Oh, maybe are you going to go to Kodokan?
Probably, yeah. I might go try and visit some more small, because I went to the Kodokan last time. Yeah. And honestly, I enjoyed it was fun, but I enjoyed going to visit small private clubs more than the Kodokan. The Kodokan was how did I say, it was kind of not very personal, the experience.
Right. Yeah. I've been once, and it's more like kind of like open mat.
Yeah, and they see so many people come by that's like they're just like whatever, and I'm sure they handle a lot of meatheads that go way too hard, and I saw a couple while I was there. So it was just kind of like you go there, it's like a pilgrimage, you practice and you leave. There's really no connection there, versus the small dojos I went to. Everyone was really nice. The judo level wasn't as high, the places I went to, but they took me out to eat afterwards. Like we had like I still emailed some of them and keep the connection, you know. So yeah, that's awesome, man. Have fun. That's gonna be great. It's been literally more than 20 years since I've been in Japan. I went once. It was amazing. Love to go back.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show with us. What question?
The interview question we ask everyone.
Oh, yeah. I was
the walkout song.
I'm going to get to it, but he's forcing me. He's being he's bullying me on the show so much. So thank you for being on the show with us. We ask people this one question every time. So it's the Olympics, World Championships, whatever big tournament you want to call it. You're in the main event, fighting for the gold. What song are you coming out to? What's your entrance music?
Eric B. and Rakim, Don't Sweat the Technique.
All right. That's awesome. I love that. That's great. So with that, yeah.
Is there anything you want to plug or shout outs in your Instagram, your social, how to contact you?
Oh yeah. Just 510 Judo everywhere. 510 Judo on Facebook, 510 Judo on Instagram, 510 Judo on YouTube. Yeah, that's about it. You know, if you live in the Bay Area, come train at our dojo.
All right, that's fantastic. So I'd like to thank you for being on the show. Please go follow him on his Instagram, Facebook, X, Line, Threads, whatever else is out there right now. All right. Please follow Sensei. I was going to say Sensei Masters, blah, 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 all this other crazy stuff. I'm trying to add the Kung Fu into it. All right.
Yes.
Jonah at 510 Judo. Thank you for being on the show. We greatly appreciate it. Till next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's great time.
What a great interview that was. That was amazing.
Super hopefully long, you guys.
But amazing.
Hopefully you guys listened to the whole thing. We were talking about cutting it up into 2 parts, but I'm like, no, I think it should be stayed as a one long episode. So,
So, what'd you find out, Anthony? How cheap it was to run a tournament for the.
Yeah, well, I don't know what people were bitching about, honestly. Like,
Smoothcomp, man.
Smoothcomp is expensive. Insurance is expensive. Like, what are you guys talking about? All these other martial arts are doing that. Obviously, we need to charge more because our dojo, I won't go into the finances of our dojo, but our dojo is lucky enough to have money, but the money does allow us to do a lot of scholarships, like sponsoring people to compete at events, and then like for example, we gave some people we can theoretically we're talking about renting a bus to drive up to San Francisco if we have enough competitors. So charging more membership gives us all that kind of stuff, but I still disagree with the belt test fee thing. But I think he should just charge more money, because honestly, Jonah's charging not that much for I saw photos of his facility, his location. Like he should be charging more, basically. I'd much rather he just charge more instead of charging belt fees. But hey, it's his business. So agree to disagree. He's doing a great job growing his judo program. And he, like he said, he's living a fulfilling life while I got called out for working a tech job. But
well, it is a taekwondo, karate, tang sudo, like it is, I guess those that style martial arts of testing feats and stuff. Like some dojos test every quarter, some test every 3-4 months. So it's part of that culture. And he was saying how he went to those seminars with that kind of cult, those martial arts as the core group, and so that's what they do. They test for belt. They charge for belts. They charge for testing stuff. So that's how they make a little extra money. And as a standalone dojo that doesn't do anything else, he doesn't need to have a BJJ class. He doesn't need to have a cardio kickboxing class or yoga class. Just judo itself, I really give it up for doing that. It's really tough to just be a by yourself martial art dojo like that. It's just a straight judo club and survive. Like I'm really impressed that he did it, you know?
Yeah, I forgot to ask him why he thinks the tournament hasn't come back in that area. I mean, maybe people were like, over COVID, they're like, oh, now I don't have to think about how hard it is running a tournament and all the time and stress and stuff. So maybe I'll just stop running it. Maybe it was that. But I think after talking to him, when he kept talking about these conferences he's going to that helped him so much. That's what I believe the governing bodies, the grassroots governing bodies should be doing. He shouldn't have to go to a taekwondo.
Yeah. We're both like a taekwondo.
Yeah, he shouldn't be having to go to other organizations to learn about this stuff. This should be what they offer to grow grassroots judo and help clubs open
something.
Yeah, and also we talked about mat loaning programs, right? Like he shouldn't have had to
borrow mats from wrestling. Like,
yeah.
Well, okay, like here in Los Angeles, I know because I know other dojos do it, but we're part of our Udanchikai, our judo federation down here, our black belt, I don't know what dojo federation. Like you can rent Nanka's mats. You know, I don't know how much it costs, but if you pay to like move them and stuff, you can loan out. Nanka will loan out mats to you. So I don't know what their Udanchikai up there is, but they maybe should have helped him. But I don't know, maybe they could help him or not. Maybe the mats aren't near Oakland or near the East Bay. Maybe they're down in San Jose.
I talked about how Judo Canada has a mat loan program to help you get your club kickstarted and running, and then once you have enough fees, you return the mats or you just purchase them for whatever. I don't know, but they have a program like that to help clubs start or to help run tournaments. So he's doing all he took out a credit card. He had to start opening a credit card. He did all the work himself. He had to go ask all the people for help. Those connections are stuff that he developed himself from going to tournaments and stuff. I assume, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like those connections should be what the governing bodies should provide. Like I should be able to go up to them and be like, I don't know anyone, right? So, or I piss off a lot of people, but I should be able to go to them and be like, hey, I want to run a tournament. Like, tell me who I need to talk to. Where can I borrow mats? Where can I rent the space? Who can I talk to get referees? Like that. I feel like unless you're already like know people, and then it's kind of hard. So.
It was a great interview. Really learned a lot of stuff. It was very interesting. And I hope you guys listened to all of it. So with that, Anthony, is there anything else we got to plug?
No. Gotta take my meds and sleep.
Gotta take your NyQuil.
Yeah.
All right. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I should have said this earlier because apparently no one's listening right now. You can follow us on Instagram at Tatami Talk. You can follow us at Threads at Tatami Talk. You can follow us on YouTube at Tatami Talk. You can follow us on all your favorite podcast sites and all that kind of stuff at Tatami Talk. If you want to follow me, you follow me on Instagram at @GRA_Juan. You can follow Anthony at Anthony Throws on Instagram. All right. Is there anything else I'm forgetting?
Nope.
All right. So that's it. So with that, don't forget to
go to the Bay Area Judo Championships next year.
Yes.
Yeah. And slap the mat. Yeah. Just not at the tournament. Okay.